कोही छ भने अनि काका सबै कुरा बुझ भनेको के मैले हुन्छ हुन्छ ल हाम्रोमा चल्दैन चल्नु पनि हुँदैन
के अहिले यो स्लो भएको है कसो यसको यहाँ भनिरहेछ तर यहाँ देखिरहेको छैन उसको चाहिँ भएको हो जस्तो लाग्छ
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Okay.
Vietnam already. Vietnam.
Dr. Tanuja, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is Siva. How are you?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Dr. Sivaram.
Yeah, how are you, madam?
Good, good. Thank you.
Yeah, nice. Welcome. Yeah.
Okay. Let's start. Okay. Everyone, namaste, vanakkam, salam, assalamu alaikum, good afternoon, good morning to everybody. Welcome to the second day of the International Conference, Looming Water Crisis and Climate Change in South Asia, Rainwater Harvesting as Adaptation Strategy. For those of you coming only today, so welcome to all of you as well. For those of you who've been there with us yesterday, welcome back to all of you as well. Yesterday we had a very good sessions with participation of registered participation of 144 people from different parts of the world. Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, Nepal, Vietnam, UK, France, Netherlands, are the countries that participated. And also we had YouTube views 178, and through our website SARNET 47 participated. So hopefully today will be the same, but we'll get a participation of the similar numbers today as well. So just to recap very quickly of what happened yesterday, which is day one. It started with the inauguration with the welcome and introduction by our chairman, Mr. Rajendra Aryabandhu, chairperson of Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Forum, after which he introduced the guest speaker, the first guest speaker, who was Dr. Sunita Narayan from Center for Science and Environment, New Delhi. She's the director there. Dr. Narayan gave a very structural and well-documented overview of the current state of water management and the challenges we will encounter in the new decade. The next speaker, Emeritus Professor, Vice Chancellor of Stanford University, Bangladesh, Professor Feroz Ahmad, presented on the use of rainwater in the arsenic-affected areas in the coastal area where ground was very saline. His presentation raised issues of water quality, comparing different water supply options available in Bangladesh. Rainwater proves to be a good source of water, which can be used for drinking with adaptation of household filters and treatment. Next was addressed by Mr. Reid Eishelman, Mission Director of USAID and to Sri Lanka and Maldives. He's the USAID is a sponsor of the conference. He encouraged the conference by expressing his confidence in rainwater harvesting and underwriting the SARNET effect to promote rainwater harvesting in the region through exchange of research and sharing of relevant experiences. So that ended the inauguration session, and the theme technical sessions started from then. The first was the theme one, which is rainwater for water supply. There were two sessions from this theme. First one was started with the from Mr. Vishu Pradeep, community water experience in India. Then a study from Bangladesh was presented by Professor Tanveer Ahmed. It was a study on the effectiveness of rainwater harvesting of household rainwater harvesting systems in the western coastal regions of Bangladesh. So it was a feasible study at household level. Then the technicals, and then there was another feasible study from rainwater harvest system at household level from Nepal, Kathmandu by Mr. Sanip Shrestha. Then technical session 2, same on the same theme, water supply for rainwater for water supply. We had presentation from Malaysia, Dr. Sarada Narayan, empowering indigenous women through rainwater harvesting, where we saw how rural women can be trained on welding, doing welding to install rainwater harvest system, and also trained on home gardening as well. Very successful case study there. We had a poster presentation on wells, manual dug wells for water security in developing countries by Dr. Jose Rafaela from India. Then going north from India, we had a presentation from Mr. Pravat KC, status of rainwater harvest in Kathmandu Valley. And going even further north, we had a presentation from Mr. Engineer Deva Hapugoda, his experience in implementing rainwater harvesting in Afghanistan. Last technical session of the day was on theme rainwater harvesting for technology innovation. We had 3 presenters during this session. First was from Dr. Saeed Nawaz from Pakistan, where he presented a case study, rainwater harvesting through engineering soakage pit for groundwater recharge and improved water supply in a mega project in Lahore, Pakistan. Very good case study, and also can be taken out to other areas as well. The second presentation from Professor Shanti De Silva, where she presented a study on the effect of artificial groundwater recharging using rainwater in Kilnurch district in Sri Lanka. The final presentation was from Mr. Ruwan Dimithu, where he presented a self-assessed Excel-based roof rainwater harvesting potential calculator for all districts of Sri Lanka, which I'm sure can be adapted to other countries as well, given the rainfall, different rainfall data. So the first day of the conference came to close around about 6:20, about 20 minutes overdue, but it was a very successful conference. So that is a small recap for you, for people who missed yesterday's presentations. Now I handed you over to today's technical session, chaired by Ms. Kusuma Kaur. Over to you, Kusuma.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Tanuja. And good afternoon to everyone who's listening to this around the world. And we are talking of the looming water crisis and climate change. But the looming water crisis and climate change is not only for South Asia.
Kusum, can you give us 2 minutes to introduce you first, properly?
Okay, no problem.
Technical Session 4 Rainwater Harvesting for Disaster Situations. Now I would like to give a brief introduction of chairperson and rapporteur of this session. Ms. Kusuma Athukorala has worked extensively as a consultant, researcher and activist on development issues. She has also worked as an advisor and consultant for water-related programs. Currently, she is a regional councillor member of the Global Water Partnership South Asia. Dr. Tanuja Aryananda is a hydrobiologist with a passion to promote and campaign for sustainable water resource management. She has also served as a member of the Ministerial Committee for Developing Policy and Strategy for Rainwater Harvesting in Sri Lanka. Dr. Aryananda has authored several publications and research papers at national and international forums. Currently, she is the Chief Executive Officer of the Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Forum. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Kusuma Athukorala and Dr. Tanuja Aryananda to take over this session.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, all of you who are listening are obviously passionate about one solution for climate change and the water crisis, which is rainwater harvesting. I would really like to give a word of appreciation to the organization which thought of this activity, the Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Forum, because this is one, I would say this is a bit of a Cinderella issue in spite of all that has been done to promote it. People still do have an idea that, rainwater harvesting is, a very matter of getting water into a barrel. Now, yesterday's sessions has taught us that it's much, much more than that. And I was quite impressed to see the high technical quality of the presentations. The innovative thinking, for instance, which comes through a overflow recharge. And I do think that this is the time that we have to we are on the throes of going into COP again in Glasgow. And this is one issue which has to go as one of the solutions. It's a long-term and short-term solution. So thank you very much, Tanuja and the Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Forum. I would like to go on to introduce the first speaker, Miss Dr. Rachel Jose Nisbet. She is the Director Communications Advocacy for the International Rainwater Harvesting Alliance. She has 2 PhDs in Geosciences and Environmental Humanities, and she's particularly interested in ecosystem adaptation and participatory justice. I feel that, a lot of affinity with her because she's also a creative writer. She's interested in creative writing and storytelling, which I believe is important for us in this period to get our message across as aficionados of the rainwater harvesting scenario. So over to you, Dr. Nisbat. We welcome you and we look forward to your presentation. Do we have a recording or do we have a speaker?
It's a recorded one.
Okay.
Hello, and thanks to SARNET for giving me this opportunity to speak here today. I'm Rachel Nisbet, Director of Advocacy at the International Rainwater Harvesting Alliance. I'm here to present an integrated water resource management project that is currently being implemented in Nepal. It was co-designed by our NGO and Kanchan, Nepal, and it was presented to many of you yesterday by my colleague, Ms. Soni Pun. The value of speaking about it again here today is to explain how this project fits within an adaptation model that can reduce disaster risk for local communities. The Rain Communities project is currently being implemented in the Nepalese mid-hills to the west of Kathmandu. This is a drought-prone region. Due to its karstic geology and steep topography, water retention within catchments is low. Additionally, an increasingly irregular monsoon leads to long periods in the year without precipitation. It is also a rural region where communities depend on spring water as an important water supply for drinking and domestic use, for irrigating crops and raising livestock. To give you a sense of how acute the water shortage is, in some parts of the Kaski district, Kanchan took some of my colleagues to visit a village where people have been obliged to stop washing their linen to conserve water. In this context, integrated water resource management can help buffer water supply by reducing runoff and increasing infiltration of rainwater through passive rainwater harvesting. This involves the creation of retention structures, including ponds. The Rain Communities project uses an ecosystem-based adaptation framework to link the social and economic benefits of community-based natural resource management to climate change adaptation strategies and ecosystem conservation. It is supported by a multi-level policy. Ideally, in the context of Nepal, the RED+ policy for forest protection should be mentioned, and supporting of equitable governance of natural resources. In our project, reducing disaster risk is part of climate change adaptation, but it can also provide socio-economic benefits, as I will explain. The idea to restore local ponds or pokari upstream of the springs that supply water for domestic use came from the communities with whom IRA and our partner Kanchan Nepal have been working with for a decade. Local engagement is a key component of water resource management in our approach. Local adaptation is a second key feature of our project. With Kanchan, we identified communities marked in the brown areas on this map to the east of Pokhara, with whom we would like to work. They are spread over several watersheds. Approaching this project from disaster risk reduction perspective, our aim was to restore ponds, to improve local domestic water supply, to reduce socioeconomic vulnerability to disaster. We also wanted to identify slopes that were prone to landslides and engage in the reforesting of these areas. This was to reduce environmental hazards and provide agroforestry resources for local communities. Managing rainwater infiltration involves a four-pronged approach in our project. Spring water protection begins by surveying springs. You can see this lady showing where she collects water. Secondly, flash flood protection is installed in upstream areas of the springs. Thirdly, each spring eye is protected from pollution using a headwall casing through which spring water can flow in a pipe. After this casing is installed and fitted with taps, the spring can be used. Here you can see local women collecting water at a newly protected source. The wire netting and the concrete housing of the spring eye prevents local contamination. The second and third stages of our rainwater retention approach involve soil testing in the low-lying areas to assess their clay content and the use of this information to plan where ponds can be constructed on land that will act as an aquitard. Soil structure, bulk density, infiltration capacity, temperature, pH, and organic matter were measured in our samples to assess the infiltration capacity. For groundwater recharge. At the same time, old ponds are being restored by clearing vegetation inside them, lining them with red mud as an impermeable layer to retain water, and replanting vegetation around them, edges of the ponds, to prevent their erosion. We have been planting pond edges using amrizo, which is locally used as a broom to sweep houses and as a source of animal fodder. The fourth step of understanding rainwater retention in these project areas is participatory mapping. What is innovative in our approach is that we are using 3D maps to represent local topography. Kanchan Nepal created these maps to enable local women to show us where they collect spring water and when it flows during the year. It should be emphasised that this is a map for the community to empower them in their use of natural resources and their management of them. Using 3D maps, mothers groups, sports groups, water user committees, cooperatives, agricultural users, and farmer and forestry management groups are consulted to exchange information on their local natural resources. Our approach to disaster risk reduction delivers socioeconomic benefits even when we're helping to prevent landslides. After Kanchan identify erosion-prone slopes in the project areas, they work with the local branch of Nepal's Federation of Community Forest Users to develop nurseries. This involves identifying and growing trees that bear comestible produce, including Indian gooseberries and Sichuan peppers. Trees that provide animal fodder are also being planted. By combining disaster risk reduction and supporting local livelihoods in this manner, we are again developing an ecosystem-based adaptation model for climate change adaptation. We hope to map this aspect of our project onto Nepal's subnational RED action plan, which supports local livelihoods and prevents deforestation using a participatory local design approach. In conclusion, our approach to disaster risk reduction delivers socioeconomic benefits through a community-based participatory approach. It uses careful rainwater resource management to increase community resilience to drought. It also uses an ecosystem-based adaptation approach to reforest erosion-prone slopes using comestible plants. We involve participants in the planning and implementation phases of the project using community consultations, participatory mapping, and by involving the local forestry user committee in our planning of reforestation. Thanks for listening to this presentation. And if you do
Thank you very much, Dr. Nisbet. And I really feel that you have come very close to what we are talking right now in the run-up to Glasgow. Nature-based solutions, catching the water where it is, where it falls, supporting the existing water, the resuscitation of the existing water sources at a time where each and every source is so important to us. So thank you very much, especially because you are looking at an area which is so important not only to Nepal, but to all of the Indian subcontinent, the Himalayas. If we can go on to the next speaker. The next speaker is from Pakistan. He is Saeed Zahir Hussain Shah Gardesi, and he has 32 years of experience in planning, designing, execution of social sector development projects. Especially his expertise has been working with donor-assisted social services. And we can see that he has been having exposure to a lot of the international thinking which comes because he's been working with the social mobilization, the multi-sectoral approaches. And I would like to ask him to do present his presentation, which may be very alien to Sri Lankan, because he's talking about earthquake reconstruction and rehabilitation. Now, this is the one we have had every kind of disaster in Sri Lanka other than earthquake, and I hope that we are not going to have that as well. But recovery and rehabilitation are important for all disasters. And when that disaster happens, the first thing we ask is, how are we going to get the water? So let's go to Mr. Gardesi and his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really grateful to the organizer for providing me this opportunity to share the experience from Pakistan. In fact, it is not rehabilitation only. It is in the context of earthquake 2005, when everything was smashed, including major infrastructure. So more than 4,000 water supply schemes were also affected, badly affected in Pakistan. So restoration of those water supply scheme, and it was a big challenge. But the government of Pakistan then decided to convert this disaster into opportunity. So in every sector, the slogan was build back better. Whatever was damaged, whatever was smashed, we need to rebuild in a manner that it sustained in a long-term time, for a long-term time. So in water and sanitation, in the context of water and sanitation, there were three major challenges: accessibility. Nepal and Kashmir and northern part of Pakistan are almost similar. So my predecessor presenter, I can see the terrain. We have the similar terrain over here. So accessibility was a big challenge for us. And the second challenge in the context of water supply was water to maintain the water quality. And the third one was how to maintain or ensure water quantity in a long-term manner. So we tried our best to address all these challenges. We went through participatory approach, communities, line agencies, and civil society organizations as well. And then we established the water quality labs and training of the concerned people in the context of water quality. But to ensure the water quantity in long-term manner, we thought out of the box and we went for promoting rainwater harvesting in these areas. I think the organizer have my video, a small documentary on this. Instead of going to present the whole case study, I would request the organizer to run the documentary, please.
Life was a heavy burden for Rimsha. Rimsha spent hours each day fetching water for her family of 7 in one of Pakistan's harshest mountain terrains in Azad Jammu and Kashmir. For generations, women and young girls like Rimsha in many parts of the country have been making this back-breaking journey to fetch clean water for their families' drinking and cooking needs day in and day out.
हमारा जो क्या इधर पानी का बहुत ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम था। हम लोगों को सुबह सवेरे उठ के सबसे पहले हमें पानी लाना पड़ता था, घर के काम काज भी करने पड़ते थे, स्कूल भी जाती थी तो बहुत मुश्किल से हम लोग पहुंचते थे।
जब ज़लज़ला हुआ तो हमारे पानी जो है, पानी का निज़ाम दरम बरम हो गया था, बहुत दूर से जाके पानी लाना पड़ता था। वहाँ पे उस चश्मे में भी हमारे नंबर लगे हुए थे, वहाँ से हमें कितने घड़े मिलेंगे? 3 या 4 घड़े मिलेंगे ना। उस 3-4 घड़े जो पानी हमें मिलेगा उससे हमने वॉशरूम भी इस्तेमाल करना है, फिर कपड़े भी धोने हैं, भैंसों को भी पानी देना है, सब्जियां भी लगानी है, फिर बर्तन भी धोने, बहुत सारे हमें मुश्किलात का सामना पड़ा। टाइम पे स्कूल भी नहीं जा सकते थे क्योंकि उधर से अम्मी से डांट पड़ती कि पानी ला के छोड़ के फिर जाएं।
When the worst earthquake in the history of Pakistan struck the northern parts of the country, including Azad Jammu and Kashmir and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa on 8 October 2005, the disaster not only took 73,000 lives but also damaged the public service infrastructure, including over 4,700 water supply and sanitation facilities. Soon after the disaster, the Earthquake Reconstruction and Rehabilitation Authority, ERA, emerged as a semi-government entity responsible to undertake immediate relief and recovery activities, and subsequently reconstruct and rehabilitate the infrastructure.
ERA had intervened in a wide array of sectors including education, health, communication, telecom. Water and sanitation was one major area where we intervened. About 4,000 water supply schemes were restored and rehabilitated. And as a result of that, most of the people in this area now have access to the piped source of water.
Earthquake Reconstruction and Rehabilitation Authority's Water and Sanitation Program benefited over 2.7 million population of the earthquake-affected areas of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Azad Jammu and Kashmir.
एरे वालों ने बहुत कुछ हमारे साथ किया,
उन्होंने हमारे साथ तामन किया, उन्होंने हमको पानी लगा के दिया। उनका जो बड़ा ऑफिसर था वो भी इधर इसी मकान में आके बैठा है।
कपड़े धोने, साग सब्जी, घर का पूरा निज़ाम जो है वो पानी का इसी पानी से जो एरा वालों ने हमें दिया है उससे चल रहा है।
ERA, with its mission to build back better, took a futuristic and innovative approach to tackle water scarcity issues. An environmentally sustainable and climate change adaptation project, promotion of rainwater harvesting, was launched in order to implement an efficient mechanism for making clean water available at every doorstep.
Two major challenges we faced. The first one was that how to ensure that adequate water quantity would be available for the future population of these areas. And the second challenge is how to address the water quality issues. To address this water quantity issue in a long-term manner, we simply thought out of the box and we took advantage of the rainfall in these areas. One, and the other thing was that under rural housing program of ERA, more than 400,000 houses were constructed of tin roof. Rainwater falling on tin roof gives you neat and clean water.
Rooftop rainwater harvesting is a simple method of getting rainwater from the roof catchment and to conserve it for future productive use. Rainwater is gathered with the help of roof catchment surface. The collected water is then transported from the rooftop to the storage with help of drains and pipes. The first flush of rainwater, which is generally unclean and contaminated, is collected in a first flush diverter. Once the clean water starts gathering, it is transported to a larger storage area for future use.
एलिवेटेड टेरेन में रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग एक विन विन सिचुएशन है कि जो उन कम्युनिटी को भी सर्व करता है, एनवायरनमेंट को भी अच्छा रखता है, उनकी लाइवलीहुड के भी सपोर्ट करता है, फ्लड्स को कंट्रोल करता है और वाटर की रिसाइकलिंग में भी मदद देता है.
Misperceptions about the utility of rainwater for domestic use, particularly for drinking purposes, had to be actively countered. Therefore, the concept of rainwater harvesting was promoted at large by ERA, thereby targeting different segments of the society.
Pakistan is already entered into the water-stressed countries. Rainwater harvesting in hilly areas is important. That water is already very clean water. They just need to boil it so that there will not be any biological contamination.
As part of the mobilization efforts, students at school were engaged through walks and debate competitions. ERA targeted the policymakers, public representatives, and the general public through awareness-raising events. Community events highlighting the need and importance of rainwater harvesting were also organized by ERA in order to promote the project. As part of sustainable measures, ERA trained more than 1,800 volunteers of the project area for installation of the rainwater harvesting system. All these efforts led to a realization that this natural resource can be tapped very effectively, and so far 11 young researchers from different lead universities of Pakistan have completed their research work on different aspects of rainwater harvesting.
Your investment on rainwater harvesting technology will be recovered within 4 to 5 years. This technology is not only to supplement the water resources, but it is a direct adaptation to climate change.
Recently एक evaluation ERA ने करवाई है अपने project से related जो जिसको link up किया गया है climate change adaptation and mitigations के साथ. कुछ ऐसे indicators उन्होंने design किए हैं जिनके through आप एक economically beneficial model बना सकते हैं rainwater harvesting को.
There were 3 areas where we looked at its effectiveness. One was health, the other was education, and third was income generation. The income has improved, the hygiene and health have improved, and we've also seen that children, especially girls, are now going to school more often because they don't have to go and fetch water for so long.
For Rimsha and countless other girls like her, this new method of water supply at the doorstep is proving to be a life changer. Today, Rimsha does not have to carry the burden of water pots over these treacherous mountains, and she has much more time for her other chores and a little extra time to rest. The community feels proud of this innovative approach of ERA, which has helped in raising their self-esteem.
हम लोग पानी को स्टोर कर लेते हैं, वही पानी हम घर में यूज़ करने के अलावा मवेशियों को भी देते हैं। पहले सब्जियां हम बाजार से खरीदनी पड़ती थी, लेकिन अब हम घर की सब्जियां इस्तेमाल करते हैं। टाइम जो है हमारा बहुत ज़्यादा वेस्ट होता था और मुझे स्टडी के लिए बहुत कम टाइम मिलता था। जब से ये एरा का प्रोजेक्ट यहाँ पे शुरू हुआ है तो लग शुक्र है हम लोगों को पानी लाने के लिए कहीं जाना नहीं पड़ता।
एरा का वाहिद अदारा है जिसने यहाँ एक लोगों की तकलीफ़ को महसूस करते हुए ज़िलज़ले के अंदर जो चश्मे जो है खुश्क हो चुके थे, तो बारिश के पानी को स्टोर करने का एक आसान और सस्ता ज़रिया जो है लोगों को फराहम किया।
ये तो हमारे इलाके में 100% कामयाब है, सब लोगों को इसका फ़ायदा पहुंच रहा है। जब भी बारिश होती है तो पानी ज़ाया नहीं होता, वो कवर ही होता है। वो अदरवाइज जो टंकी आपने दी हुई है उसके अलावा भी हम घरों में और टंकियाँ वगैरह लगा के पानी को कवर कर लेते हैं।
इसका सबसे ज़्यादा फ़ायदा मैं समझता हूँ कि वो मुझे हुआ है। मेरी वाइफ है, वो भी टीचिंग करती है, बस दो ही है। एक गड़वा हमने पानी का उठा के लाते हैं, जो पीते हैं 24 आवर्स, वो हमारे लिए काफ़ी है।
The success of rainwater harvesting project has led provincial governments to start planning for replication of this model with the assistance of ERA. To promote this idea at the national level, ERA, in collaboration with the government of Punjab, has recently implemented a pilot project at Murree, a town highly challenged by scarcity of water. Whereas the government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has also planned to implement a similar project in Nathia Gully and surrounding areas with the technical assistance of ERA.
ERA ने जो रास्ता दिखाया है, बड़े कम खर्चे में ये काम हो जाता है, तो आप ये लगाना शुरू करेंगे ताकि जो वाटर स्कीम्स हैं उनको प्रेशर कम हो।
Rainwater harvesting is actually pretty essential for us. ERA-related pilot projects are so important that people are not only hearing, they're actually seeing the benefits. We are trying to make rules and regulations for the building constructions in such a manner that we ourselves, at least at the government level, can collect our own water and use it. We believe that this is the way to go, and it is a long-term, actual and realizable, sustainable, maintainable solution to our water issues.
The success of this project demands that rainwater harvesting should be replicated in other water-stressed regions of the country as a priority, wherever feasible.
Thank you very much. This was all from our side.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gardesi. You know that I was thinking while listening to you, you are working on rainwater harvesting after a disaster. Now it seems to me that disaster upon disaster is coming thick and fast on us. So that your thinking, your program is now going to be needed ever so often, unfortunately for us. But there is also another issue which I thought was very interesting, that is your use of rainwater harvesting advocacy programs, especially with young children, schools. I think this is very important because we need to make the younger generation who are now suffering, I think, from climate anxiety, to make sure that they understand the importance of adapting this new, well, it's not really new, but it's new for many people, unfortunately. And that this would be incorporated into even their school studies, their environmental studies, their environmental and engineering, engineering schools should incorporate this into the syllabus. So thank you very much for giving us these insights. And we are now going to the next paper by Miss Ama Rajakaruna Nayaka. Miss Rajakaruna Nayaka is currently the Rainwater Harvesting Forum's Deputy Director and the Project Coordinator. She has a BSc from Dublin on Management Information Systems and an MSc from the University of Jayawardenepura, Sri Lanka. She has published extensively and is extremely well known in the Sri Lankan water sector. And I would call upon Amma to present her paper, which is absolutely spot on because it is about using rainwater harvesting in times of COVID. So when we go back from Mr. Gardesi's to this build back better, that is also the mantra that we are using for the COVID pandemic. Over to you, Amma.
Ayubowan, Vanakkam, good afternoon. This research study is on usage of rainwater harvesting during COVID-19 pandemic crisis in Sri Lanka. I am Amaraj Karranayaka, and this is a joint paper with Dr. Tanuja Aryananda, conducted by Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Forum, Sri Lanka. During the past 25 years, more than 48,000 household rainwater harvesting systems were installed across Sri Lanka. These rainwater harvesting systems were built by various organizations, government institutions like National Water Supply Drainage Board, Presidential Task Force, Disaster Management Center, Community Water Supply Projects, international organizations like Asia Development Bank, World Vision, IOM. From local NGOs, Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Forum itself has built more than 7,000 rainwater systems. So out of all the rainwater systems, 43% of the systems were built in dry zone and 31% in the intermediate zone and 26% were built in wet zone. During the past 5 years, Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Forum was implementing a project on safe disaster resilient drinking water to floods and drought prone areas in Sri Lanka, and this project is funded by USAID. I would like to bring some highlights of the project. About 799 domestic rainwater harvesting systems were able to implement, and about 85 rainwater systems were established in schools. About 400 rainwater systems were able to rehabilitate, and 193 well recharge systems were implemented. About more than 35,000 beneficiaries were able to benefit from these systems, and also we were able to conduct awareness and training programs on rainwater harvesting for more than 400 government officials and other stakeholders. This paper focuses on Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Forum's experience on rainwater usage during lockdown due to COVID-19 pandemic situation in 2020 April. And survey was conducted among the rainwater users and non-rainwater users in 3 districts in dry zone areas, Badulla, Monragala and Kilnochi. The sample was considered out of 401 domestic rainwater system and 200 rehabilitated rainwater users. And this survey was surveyed among 102 rainwater users in 21 Gram Lila divisions from 3 districts of Badulla, Monragala and Kilnochi. And due to the lockdown situation, we were not able to visit each households. Therefore, we conducted by telephone interviews. The rainwater harvesting users surveyed 92 had water in their rainwater harvesting system. The 8% of rainwater harvesting systems which did not have water is due to over usage during the prevailing drought at the time in these districts. Out of the rainwater harvesting system which did have water, 65% were filled with rainwater and 35% were filled with water bought from Bowser or wells. During the COVID-19 pandemic situation, beneficiaries have used rainwater mainly for drinking, cooking and hand washing. Out of that, 51% used drinking and for cooking. It is more often used for frequent hand washing during this time, following Sri Lanka government health authorities' advice to easy due to easy accessibility. All households surveyed in both rainwater systems and non-beneficiaries have reported that they adhere to government advice on washing hands with soap and water, especially after returning home. Overall, in the 3 districts, the main water source for hand washing was rainwater and public well, followed by own well. The main drinking water source for non-beneficiaries of rainwater users was public well, followed by own wells. Around 19% of rainwater users have shared their rainwater with their neighbors during this situation. The householders which use public wells have faced difficulty obtaining water during curfew imposed time, since they have to travel up to 1 kilometer to the public wells. Other sources of obtaining drinking water were through RO filters, Bowser water supplied by Pradesh Sabha or Disaster Mitigation Center during this period. Due to imposed curfew, people find it difficult to get supply from regular water sources due to accessibility, delay in Bowser supply, and other economic reasons. In conclusion, beneficiaries of rainwater harvesting enjoyed having water at their doorstep, which is free of charge, therefore less economic burden on them during the COVID-19 lockdown period, especially for daily earners. Also, by having a rainwater harvesting system gave them added storage capacity to get Bowser water when it is available on average cost of 30 to 50 per liter when rainwater ran out. Whereas non-rainwater harvesting householders who did not have a well in the premises had to wait till the curfew or lockdown is lifted to get to public wells. As I mentioned earlier, often travel up to 1 kilometer to get their drinking water and waiting in the queue for up to 1 hour. As a recommendation, the government and multinational institutions and other implementing organizations should consider providing rainwater harvesting systems in water scarce areas. Through rainwater harvesting system, beneficiaries are able to access water throughout the day for drinking and other purposes at their doorstep. Rainwater harvesting systems gives resilience to the householders during disasters as well as pandemic situations through readily available water supply at their premises. Thank you for listening for my presentation, and I wish stay safe for all.
Thank you very much, Amma Rajakavanaika. We also heartily endorse the stay safe for all, because this is a concern for everyone. But I do think that, you have brought to light some very important factors that we are probably going to be having lockdowns more and more. And we really need to make sure that the most important source of life, which is water, is available, and that even in the time of pandemics. So I think that this is your information is going to be used more and more, unfortunately, as we continue to grapple with this horrendous situation. And our next speaker is from Nepal, and the theme of Professor Jiba Rajpokral's presentation is small ponds for multiple disaster risk reduction. And again, I think it takes me back to some work that we did in Chandani VDC, where at that level, at that height, the only thing which is supporting human beings is this ponds and the little storage capacity built in the mountains. So, and again, we come back to the other theme, which is disaster. More and more, we are going to be juggling these two hand in hand. How do we manage water, and how do we manage it in the disasters which are piling upon us day by day? So over to you, Professor.
Can you see me? Can you see this slide?
Yes, we
Hello?
can see.
Thank you, ma'am, the chairperson of this particular session, and then we have several rapporteurs and then participating ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, there was already a presentation for Nepal by Rachel, and then I'm just, kind of following because our themes are more similar. She was also talking about ponds, and here I am talking about ponds again. So my topic is small ponds for multiple disaster risk reduction in Nepal. Small ponds because Nepal, 83% is hills, 17% plains, so you cannot construct large ponds. And it faces different disasters. In corridor gossips, it is also said that Nepal is a mini kind of supermarket for disasters. So, we have like any other South Asian country, we have first flood and then landslide. After that, we have, wildfire, forest fire, and then the pollution. We also have, animal attack in the villages. Following that, we also have, these lightnings. And then, of course, climate change is always there. So these ponds have been found to be, address all these disasters in several degrees. So I'm just going to present about it. So ponds are not very new. In fact, Chanakya in the 4th century BC, he talked about the need of water bodies in the cities. So following that, because at that time we did not have a urban planning manual, Chanakya's Arthashastra was followed very widely. So in Kathmandu we have several ponds. Like you can see this pond, it is not in a very good state of affairs, but now the local government, they have maintained it. This is an old photograph. And then the ponds, in Tarai, this is in Janakpur. This is the maternal place of Sita. And then we have small ponds in the hills also. We call them ahals. In fact, not only in Nepal, in China also, in Japan also, they had this tradition of addressing flood disasters through the making of levee. As you can see here, this is a master plan of Lumbini, the birthplace of Gautam Buddha, where Kenji Tange, that famous Japanese architect, he made a levee and then he made canals. So this way, he made the master plan for Lumbini. In fact, this is a flood disaster risk reduction plan. You see, the concept is something like that. You can see these hills where you have, these landslides, and then, so if you can make ponds here and if you can retain water, some of it, then you see this, like, this is something like the motion of a body down the inclined plane. This mg sine theta, it gets considerably decreased, and then that leads to lesser flood, lesser landslide, and also lesser wildfire, because once you have ponds, then it lowers the temperature, and then it the humidity goes high, and then the animals also, they get to drink water and fodder, so they will not come to the settlements. And then the lightning also, wherever it is moist, the lightning is attracted to those areas. So instead of the lightning falling on the settlement, it goes to the forest. So what we did, we first constructed one pond. We gave a training to 4 people. This is the kind of pond which can be constructed by 4 persons in a day. And then those 4 persons, again, they were, given 3 more persons, and then 4 ponds were constructed. And then next day, 16 ponds were constructed. So this way, you see, the training was done earlier on, and that skill was transferred to 4 groups, and then later 16 groups. So this way the ponds were constructed. So my methodology is very simple. I have taken secondary resources, journal articles, and my self-analysis. I will talk about them a little later on. So the proposed pond location was like this. You can see this is a highway and this is a Rato river. And then there was this little river. So it goes up the slope. So we just constructed 50 ponds on their side of it, so that the flood water, rainwater would, kind of almost 50 to 60% of it would go downstream, but then about 30% would be taken by this pond. So there will be lesser pressure on this little rivulet, and then this larger river also will not have, that much of pressure. Otherwise, it brings about several disasters. So these are the kind of ponds, you have these ponds, and then there is one overflow pipe. So this way, like this is pond number 85. So several ponds were constructed. So later on, when we constructed the ponds, these ponds, they happened like this. You can see there is a river here, and then because of the trees, you cannot see the river that we targeted. But then you see these ponds have been constructed on either side of it, small ponds. In Nepal, what happens, we have four kind of rain. In winter, we get 3%, in pre-monsoon 14%, monsoon 78%, and post-monsoon 5%. Typical large events are in the pre-monsoon, the rainfall amount is 35 millimeter, and then it rains for an average of 4 hours. While in the monsoon period, 40 millimeter, but rains for 8 hours. And then we also have a 100-year return period where we have 200, 300 millimeter overnight. So you see, these ponds have been designed in order to address all these three situations. For example, this pre-monsoon 4 hours, 35 millimeters, so 9 millimeters per hour, and then 50% of the rain has been allowed to go downstream. So these ponds, they can capture 50% of the water, if you look at their size. And then in the monsoon also, we have 8 hours, 40 millimeter, 5 millimeter. If we let 50% of it to go downstream, then for it rains for 8 hours. So that rain that comes within 8 hours, almost 50% of it, these ponds can hold for some time. So there will not be flood, and then there will not be landslide. Landslide is, after all, due to the rainfall which gushes at a very high speed due to the gravity, and these ponds, that mg sine theta that I showed, it almost gets diminished to half mg sine theta, and then you see the whole thing becomes little better. In the time of 100 years return period also, these ponds, for the place that they were designed, they can hold water for 12 hours, but then every minute you can see 2 millimeter of rain, it percolates. So, these ponds, due to the percolation, for 24 hours, they can handle, rain, which has a 100 years return period. So I have taken, I have studied several, journals, and then they show how, you see here, if you see how from 2.5 cubic meter, you see the flood velocity goes down to 0.3 cubic meter due to the, location of these ponds. These ponds also hold sediments. You can see this is a very famous Three Gorge Dam, and the upstream of it there are several ponds, and then these ponds, they hold the sediments, and they have added to the life of the Three Gorge Dam. Now this water, a study has been made. I've again taken it from a journal. As you can see here, you see the water, the minimum depth that it percolates is about 2.9 meter. So we often think that this water will bring about landslide, because if it gets to the slip surface. But then you can see how the slip surface is concave, and then that is quite below. It is about 50-60 meters below, and then because this water cannot percolate more than 2.9 meters, so it doesn't get to the slip surface, and that possibility of landslide is lessened. Wildfire also, you can see these ponds in the morning from 9 to evening, the temperature goes down, but because of the specific gravity of water, the temperature goes a little up after the evening, but by that time the temperature is considerably reduced. So it brings down the temperature, and then the humidity goes up, so the wildfire is also addressed. Now these animals also, if they have water to drink there, fodder there, then you see they don't come to the village settlement. After all, they also face a lot of risks. They have to struggle with the human beings. So if they get to eat and drink in the forest, then animal attacks are also very few and far between. Now, and these ponds, they can retain water. You can see here compared to other areas how they can retain water to the level of 4 meter. Lightning also, this is a study made again from, I have put it from journal Atmospheric Chemistry and Physics. There it has been shown how the lightning goes to the moist area, And so if you have generally, in Nepal, we have, forests surrounding the settlements. So you see the chances of lightning is also reduced. Now, you see, when we have these ponds, then there is a very fast, speedy growth. So you see, much of the carbon dioxide that is in the environment, and that is also, kind of stored in the vegetation. And you could see in those ponds, there was water, I showed you the slides of the ponds where there was the collection of water. Now, one pond, it has a volume of 35 cubic meters. So those 100 ponds, they hold 3,500 cubic meter of water. So that amount of water doesn't get to go down the stream. And then you see that way, the water harvesting also, it also supports water harvesting. So you can see how these ponds, when they are constructed right from the top of the mountain down below, they can address flood, they can address landslide, they can address wildfire, the pollution that comes afterwards. Last year we had wildfire and great pollution, and the government told us to keep indoors. Then we see the lightning and these animal attacks, and then the climate change. So they can, address all these problems, multiple disasters that we face. And now I am here in another district. If you go a little up, you can see Mount Everest. Okay, and then here I am constructing ponds. Today we finished constructing 30 ponds, and our target is to construct about 70 ponds. After that, again, we have other programs where we are seeking to construct these ponds. I'm very fortunate. I feel myself very lucky that in this particular forum, I got an opportunity to present this subject. I'm looking forward for constructive suggestions so that I can improve myself in this campaign of addressing multiple disaster risk reduction in Nepal. Saying that, I like to bring my presentation to a close. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all of those who are participating here.
Thank you very much, Professor. I think that, what many of the issues that you raised resonates, the importance of looking after the catchments. And one new element that you said is about how do we use this rainwater harvesting in the ponds to deal with the problem which is becoming now quite bad for us, animal, human wildlife conflict. And I am quite interested to say that you have seen Nepal as a kind of a laboratory of all the kinds of disasters possible. But I can assure you there's one that you will never have, and that is a tsunami. So I think that, thank you very much for giving us these insights, because we also have to look at rainwater harvesting within a catchment. I think we are a little short of time, so perhaps the organizers will give the questions which have come in the chat. Any questions for any of the four speakers? Tanuja, do we have them in a panel, or do we have individual?
Yeah, we'll get them on a panel.
Yes, please.
So far, we have not received any questions.
Can you get the other speakers also on? Are they present?
Yes, we have been.
Is Miss Dr. Nisbat, is she there?
No, she is not there.
So we have been, I think, energized by this insights that we have had from our four speakers. So I would advise, as much as we have learned, we still may need some clarification. So while they are online, perhaps the questions can be addressed to them individually. Organizers, how would you do it? Would you give the mic to the speaker?
Yeah, we can, if there is not on the chat box, anybody who wants to speak can raise hand, then we'll go to them.
Yes, so please do raise your hand if you have questions for the speakers.
Mr. Hans Hejenin, he wants to speak, I think. He's raising his hand.
No, he only wants to say that Sony Pun is online and she will speak on behalf of Rachel because Rachel could not make it at this particular time.
I see. Yeah,
So
welcome,
Sony. If
Sony.
you can come in if there is a question on the RAIN community project, please.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and namaste. I'm Sony from Kanchan, Nepal. I'm working as a project officer for Kanchan, Nepal, and we have this project, Integrated Water Resource Management, and we have named it at RAIN Communities. So we are also constructing small ponds in our project area. So we have like 4 different RAIN communities, and there we are planning to construct or restore different ponds in that area. So I just would like to ask Jiblal sir, how do we maintain these ponds? Because our numbers are very few than yours, because we are going to construct like 70 ponds, but we are still finding it hard to manage like 3-4 ponds in one community. So how do you maintain those ponds? I'd like to ask that.
Thank you. Ma'am, can I respond to this question? Ma'am,
yes,
Kusum,
please. Yes, please.
In fact, I was running short of time, and then I was given only 10 minutes, so I could not kind of highlight on this very important aspect. Every year, it catches the sediment, and that sediment can be a very good fertilizer. In fact, in China, they have 10,000, 20,000 ponds like that. And then what they were doing, they were using this fertilizer. But then you see, in journal article, they have written how people have become lazy now because, they have developed and they have chemical fertilizer now. So they stopped, using the fertilizer of the pond. So that fertilizer can be used, and then every year it can be maintained. Now about, how I was able to, construct these many ponds. I hit a century. In fact, I was 101 not out in in Mohotari, and I'm seeking to hit 69 and yet remain not out. I just kind of got in contact with the forest users group, and they were very happy because they said that they were in need of a thing like this. Animals, birds, and all that, they were not getting water to drink. And then you see, when I talked about, and then last year they had a wildfire, and then they were convinced that if you have, these ponds, like I have shown in the slide, how, for 100 years return period, you have to have one pond every 500 square meter, 1 rupani of land, 1 rupani, Sony knows about 1 rupani, that is 500 square meter of land. But then for, this pre-monsoon and monsoon, to address 35 millimeter of rain in 4 hours and 40 millimeter rain in 8 hours, 1,500 square meter, in 1,500 square meter, you can have 1 pond. Okay, so I did like that. Now, at the moment I'm in Khotang, there, people are coming themselves. They say that we'll give you land, but then you see, we are not constructing pond everywhere. There has to be this storm water, we call ball, storm water. So that storm water from wherever it comes down, so in that area, you see the ponds have been constructed.
Dr. Pokhran, if you can also answer this question, which is now coming up on chat twice.
Yes.
Are the ponds able to retain water during the dry seasons?
Oh, yes, that's another very important
question.
Coming
on the chat.
You see, yeah. If you have, 1 pond here, 1 other pond very far away, then, it is difficult to retain water. But then you see, my ponds, they are quite near, as you could see, in that particular map. So every 500 square meter to address 100-year return period, and every 1,500 to 2,000 square meter for, addressing monsoon and pre-monsoon typical large event. So once those ponds are that nearby, then you see that water will, be retained for a very long period of time. And then in the last 1 month or 2, we have to dredge, we have to dig, and then that, we'll have to use it as a fertilizer. So in the last 1 month, there may not be water, but then once you have the water ponds in proximity, and then the likelihood of drying of the pond is very little. Of course, I also have to see. I showed you one journal where you see the ponds, they retain 9 times more water than the other surfaces. Okay, so I also have to see. This is the first effort that I have made. So I'll be able to say you for sure next March, April, May, next June I'll be able to say you for sure. But
Dr. Pokhrang, we have one last question for you, and I think then maybe we need to go on because time is also. There's a question about the dimensions of these ponds and the spacing between ponds. If we can have a response to that, perhaps we can go on to other speakers as well. And would you like? Do you prefer rectangles, ovals, or circles for the ponds?
Yeah, we have been using square ponds, and so the name is small ponds because you see in the mountains. I've started constructing pond from the 2,000 feet below. So you see in the mountains we have very small terraces. So here we have 15 feet square ponds, but in it's close spacing. As I said, 1,500 to 2,000 square meter, we have put one pond in order to address pre-monsoon and monsoon rain. Thank you.
Mr. Gardesi, there is a question for you. What is the effect of your rainwater harvesting promotion? Do the people now come and take it upon themselves to start constructing rainwater harvesting systems now that your ERA program is over, or is ERA an ongoing activity?
Yes, this question is from him, and I said yes and no, both. Yes, because the major component of our program was promotional activities, basically awareness raising. Rainwater harvesting, to me, it is important that we need to raise awareness. And unless people see the demonstration, you cannot say that they will be convinced because people don't think that rainwater harvesting is good for drinking. But you need to educate them that how much you require for drinking actually. Drinking requirement of the daily demand is hardly 10 to 15%. Whereas for rest of the utilization on the daily basis, we require clean water actually. And for clean water, the rainwater is the best water actually. This is the natural resource we can harness. Yes, now the government of Punjab has started rainwater harvesting. There is a feasibility for the Murray area, northern part of Punjab. And now UN Habitat is supporting another program in near Islamabad and Rawalpindi. Yes, the demonstrative effects are being seen. And some of the colleagues sitting with me at the country level meeting, they have simply come over here to learn this as well. We can say that it's a long journey, but yes, the people are replicating it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gardesi. You know, the long journey always starts with the first steps, and you have taken your first steps very successfully. Organizers, do we have more time or should we wind up? Organizers, please.
There's one more question from Amma. What is the perception of people
so we will
on
take
rainwater quality?
One more question, and then Tanuja, we should wind up this session because So if you can please, Amma, respond to this.
Precipitation in those areas, usually they do have during usual rain days, usually so from September to December is the more.
Amma is perception, not precipitation.
Oh, okay, sorry. Rainwater quality in that sense, they are very happy about it, and we have conducted some rainwater quality test also, and they are in very positive using rainwater for drinking and cooking purposes.
Thank you very much. I think we need to close this session and go on to another very interesting session. I think that the insights that have been come to us especially during a time that all of us are facing disasters and one upon the other, is really important. One, the advocacy, the element which goes into it, so that we understand make this understood to a larger group than simply water professionals. And secondly, the importance of looking at catchments. So thank you very much, speakers, for your insights, for your hard work. And thank you, Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Forum, for organizing this. The session is now closed and we go on to the next. Thank you.
Thank you, Kusum, for sharing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Technical Session 5. Rainwater Harvesting for Home Gardening and Business Opportunities for Small and Medium Scale Enterprises. Now I would like to introduce Chairperson and Rapporteur of this session. Mr. Ramdeep Shah graduated in Civil Engineering from the IIT Kanpur, India in 1982. Master of Science in 2004. In 1982, he joined the Department of Water Supply and Sewage, Kathmandu, Nepal, where he worked at senior positions on various water supply and sanitation projects. At present, he has been working as an individual consultant and running a private company, Smart Wash Solutions, which is advocating and sharing knowledge, innovation, advocacy in wash field and rainwater harvesting. He has participated in several national and international conferences and presented several technical papers. Dr. Polanki Sivaram is a development researcher and a trainer with long years of experience in National Institute of Rural Development. He has contributed towards enhancing the capacity of multi-stakeholders on various themes of rural development, including drinking water and sanitation, by organizing over 175 national and international training programs, including workshops, seminars, and exposure visits. Dr. Sivaram has also contributed as a researcher for several research projects on different aspects of rural development. Currently, Dr. Sivaram is working as a freelancer consultant on drinking water and sanitation in India. Now, I would like to invite Engineer Randeep Shah and Dr. Polanki Sivaram to take over this session.
Thank you very much. I warmly welcome to you all in this session 5. The session 5 focus on this rainwater harvesting for gardening and business opportunities for small and medium enterprises. This similar to other neighboring countries, Nepal, this domestic rainwater harvesting has traditionally been an important method of water supply, especially in mountains areas where water sources lies quite far away. Even in past, some ponds were constructed to catch rainwater to be used by animals, religious purposes, fisheries, irrigation, and other purposes. We have already seen 5 presentations from Nepal in this session, in this webinar. So now this problem of scarcity of water increases day by day due to the population and source depletion and impact of climate change. So there is a need for rethinking in our approach in water harvesting technology. So we need to enhance this water harvesting for better water resource utilization and making use science and technology. And we need to promote private sector for promoting rainwater harvesting. So in this session, we have 3 speakers. First speaker is Mr. Sunil Karuna, a smart home garden with rainwater harvesting and rooftop organic home garden. And second speaker is Dr. Makoto, social enterprises on this sky water harvesting for solving drinking water crisis in coastal areas in Bangladesh. And the third speaker is Mr. Miss M.S. Sachini. Topic is the potential of rainwater harvesting in Sri Lanka and its relevance for retail banking product. All the speakers have the time limit is 10 minutes. So I would like to invite the first speaker, Mr. Sunil Karuna Bharna. He has done a diploma in engineering and specialized in mechanical, and his professional experience is in the National Engineering Research and Development Center of Sri Lanka, technical assistant and engineer. And he is engaged in construction supervision and consultancy of biogas unit for rural people, government institution, and other researches. I would like to now invite Mr. Sunil Karnada. The floor is yours. You please continue with your presentation.
Good evening, everybody. I am Sunil Karunavardhana, an engineer from National Engineering Research and Development Center of Sri Lanka. My presentation is on smart home garden with rainwater harvesting and rooftop organic home garden. Introduction. Home gardening is a popular hobby not only in Sri Lanka but also in other countries all over the world. This is more popular among the urban and semi-urban home gardens in Sri Lanka. But the problem they have is water, fertilizer and the insect repellent. Most of the people who live in semi-urban areas have their own wells and they use their well water for domestic and home gardening purposes. In dry season, in some of the wells, water capacity is not enough for domestic and gardening purposes. As a solution for this water, fertilizer and insect repellent problem, I have introduced smart home gardening concept with soil-based rainwater harvesting system by setting rainwater retaining barriers, composting with the soft dry leaves in the garden, biogas generation using biodegradable kitchen waste, insect repellent from the biodigester slurry and doing organic cultivation using this homemade compost and bio slurry. Methodology. The total area of this land is 28 perts. In 2007, 7 numbers of coconut husk water barriers were made to the garden as there is a ramp from left to the right of the house. The final water collecting place is the compost pit in the garden. After every 2 years, these coconut husk barriers were replaced with new husks. By 2090, I could observe that there is no water problem for the domestic and gardening purpose even in the dry season. So, I wanted to do a research to find out the effect of rainwater harvesting to the water capacity of the well and to the soil of my land. For this research, I selected another 3 home gardens. 2 were selected adjacent to my land and another home garden 1 kilometer away from my land. In addition to that, another research was done to find out how much biogas can be taken from 1 kilogram of kitchen waste for 24 hours. And also the amount of bioslurry that can be taken daily and how much biofertilizer can be taken from the compost pit annually were also measured. Key findings. This research was carried out from 1st of June 2019 to 1st of June 2020. During this period, the rainfall to this area was 1621 millimeter. According to this rainfall, the total rainwater received to the garden was 1.2 million liters. The total water consumption at this house during this period was 328 cubic meters, while the other 3 home gardens, they were 182, 130 and 61 cubic meter.
It's something wrong. That video is
5 metric tons of compost, 1,800 liters of slurry and 144 cubic meters of biogas annually. The worth of annual compost, slurry and biogas is about 56,200 rupees. The most important thing is the rainwater harvesting system. It helps to create a live soil in order to get a good yield from the fruit trees in the garden. In this garden, the weight of a mango and a butterfruit are in the range of 500 gram to 900 grams. At the weight of a durian comes up to 3 kilogram. Concluding recommendation. According to the data received from this research, soil-based rainwater harvesting system gives more benefit to the smart home gardening concept, enhancing the water capacity of the wells. This system not only gives benefits to the rainwater harvested homeland, but also give benefits to the adjacent home garden. If large number of houses follow this system, it helps to reduce flooding to a certain extent. Further, this concept gives a good solution for biodegradable waste management, giving energy and fertilizer for cooking and home gardening. This is completely an eco-friendly project, therefore it number of houses follow this system, it helps to reduce flooding to a certain extent. Further, this concept gives a good solution for biodegradable waste management, giving energy and fertilizer for cooking and home gardening. This is completely an eco-friendly project, therefore it
audio problem.
Yeah, I think there is a small problem when it is.
But also give benefits to the adjacent home garden. If large number of houses follow this system, it helps to reduce flooding to a certain extent. Further, this concept gives a good solution for biodegradable waste management, giving energy and fertilizer for cooking and home gardening. This is completely an eco-friendly project, therefore it helps to prevent environmental pollution at the initial stage. This chemical-free organic vegetable cultivation gives healthy vegetable to the house members, hence it helps to make healthy people. Therefore, I recommend this system to the whole South Asian region to make a healthy, wealthy nation free from garbage pollution. Acknowledgement. I would like to thank National Engineering Research and Development Center of Sri Lanka for the financial support and the instruments given to me for this research. The Institute of Fundamental Studies in Kandy, Sri Lanka, which supported me to test the soil samples. Lanka Rainwater Forum, which guided me to this research, especially to Dr. Tanuja and Ms. Amma. And finally, I would like to thank my 2 sons who supported me to collect data. These are the pictures of my garden. You can see the compost, biogas, and my rooftop cultivation. Fruits in this garden. You can see butter fruits, mango, durian, rambutan, and many varieties of fruits are available in my garden. This is the view of my garden. You can see the sun is not actually coming to the soil. The whole area is covered with the trees. Therefore, it gives a good shade to the garden. So I invite you to see this small video made at my garden with the day that we got the highest rain of 320 millimeters this year, and my biogas units, compost pit, and the cultivation.
Please unmute yourself, Mr. Sunil.
I'm actually sorry for the inconvenience that you had faced while it is playing. There's something wrong with that. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed my presentation. Thank you for listening to my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Sunil. You have given wonderful presentation. And really the new dimension of this, how you can make rainwater, you make use of rainwater in this smart home gardening. And so you have given a lot of insight. Definitely there will be a lot of interest about it. Now I would like to invite this next speaker, Dr. Makota Murase. Is the Secretary General of People for Rainwater. He is from Japan, and he has done this presentation is based on Bangladesh studies.
Good afternoon. I am Dr. Murase. Today is I have already retired this professor job, and now I am a farmer. Today is a rice harvesting, but today is a rainwater harvesting. Anyway, please start with my recorded PowerPoint, please. First of all, I would like to express special thanks to Dr. Arananda with the CEO Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Forum
to invite me this online the International Rainwater Harvesting Conference. I am happy to share and exchange with you about how to make skywater harvesting sustainable. I have been tackling skywater harvesting social enterprise to solve drinking water crisis in Bangladesh since 2008. Let me introduce my project briefly by video.
দুই শতাধিক নদী আর অসংখ্য খাল বিল হাওর বাওরের মতো জলাশয় বাংলাদেশের ভূপ্রকৃতিকে দিয়েছে অনন্য এক বৈচিত্র্য। প্রকৃতির আশীর্বাদে এখানকার নদী আর উর্বর ভূমি গ্রামীণ জনপদকে দান করেছে এক টেকসই কৃষি ব্যবস্থা। কিন্তু সম্প্রতি মনুষ্য সৃষ্ট বেশ কিছু দুর্যোগের আধিপত্য গ্রামীণ মানুষের জীবনকে ভীষণভাবেই অনিরাপদ করে তুলছে, যার মধ্যে মারাত্মক পানি দূষণ এবং পানিতে আর্সেনিকের মাত্রা বেড়ে গিয়ে বিশুদ্ধ পানীয় জলের অভাব অন্যতম। এই মারাত্মক সমস্যাটির সমাধান করা যায় পর্যাপ্ত পরিমাণে বৃষ্টির পানি সংরক্ষণের মাধ্যমে। পৃথিবীর এই অংশে মৌসুমী বায়ুর প্রভাবে প্রতি বছরেরই একটি দীর্ঘ সময় ধরে মৌসুমী বৃষ্টিপাত হয়। কোনো কোনো বছরে এই বৃষ্টিপাত গড়ে 2000 মিলিমিটার পর্যন্ত হয়ে থাকে। বিপুল পরিমাণের এই বৃষ্টির পানিকে যথাযথ উপায়ে সঞ্চিত করে রাখার প্রযুক্তিকেই বলা হয় স্কাই ওয়াটার হারভেস্টিং বা বৃষ্টির পানি সংরক্ষণ পদ্ধতি। এই পদ্ধতিটি বাংলাদেশে কতটা সফল হতে পারে সে বিষয়টি স্থানীয় এনজিওদের নিয়ে 2000 সাল থেকে হাতে কলমেই পরীক্ষা করছে জাপান ভিত্তিক অলাভজনক সংস্থা পিপল ফর রেইন ওয়াটার জাপান। এরই অংশ হিসেবে 2009 সালে পিআর জাপান এবং পিআর বাংলাদেশ যৌথভাবে বাংলাদেশের খুলনা ও বাগেরহাট অঞ্চলে 100টি কংক্রিট ট্যাঙ্ক বিভিন্ন পরিবার ও প্রতিষ্ঠানে স্থাপন করে এবং সমগ্র পদ্ধতিটির কার্যকারিতা নিবিড়ভাবে পর্যবেক্ষণ করে। সাধারণত একটি 4400 লিটার কংক্রিট ট্যাঙ্কের মূল্য 20,000 টাকা, কিন্তু পিআর বাংলাদেশের কর্মকর্তা এবং গবেষকদের লক্ষ্য হল 1000 লিটারের একটি ট্যাঙ্কের মূল্যকে 3000 টাকার মধ্যে সীমাবদ্ধ রাখা।
タイランドに非常に安いタンクがあって昔から使ってるっていうで形もすごく元から似てるとただ大きいじゃあこの技術を私の日本の技術の今までやってきた技術とタイと足してあとバングラデシュの元からの考え方を一緒にミックスして新しいローコストのタンクを作ったらどうだっていうことに思いついたんですね。
পিআর বাংলাদেশ এবং স্থানীয় এনজিওগুলো এই বিরাট মটকার নামকরণ করেন আমামিজু। আমামিজু একটি জাপানিজ শব্দ। আমা মানে আকাশ বা মিষ্টি, আর মিজু অর্থ পানি, যার বাংলা দাঁড়ায় আকাশের পানি বা মিষ্টি পানি।
Now is a time that the technology and the experience and the passion of these dynamic people are made full use of getting over the challenges which Bangladesh people are facing.
বাজারজাত যে পানি পাওয়া যায় তার চেয়ে এটি বিশুদ্ধ পানি আমি পেয়েছি। এতে আমার শারীরিক পারিবারিক সবাই একটা সুন্দর পরিবেশে আমরা পানি পাচ্ছি।
এই বিশুদ্ধ পানি আমরা যদি সারা বছর যদি আমরা আল্লাহ নামে আমরা খেতে পারি বা আমাদের বিভিন্ন কাজে যদি ব্যবহার করতে পারি তাহলে ইনশাআল্লাহ মোটামুটি আমরা এই পানি জনিত রোগ থেকে আমরা মুক্ত পেতে পারি।
天からの空からのプレゼントだと From the sky the good nice present みんなが空をいつもみんなが見上げるようになれば僕はそのイノベーションが起きると思ってるんですね。
যুদ্ধের জন্য আর কোনো ট্যাঙ্ক নয়, ট্যাঙ্ক এবার শান্তির জন্যে। আকাশের পানি জীবন বাঁচায়। সকলের প্রত্যাশা আকাশের পানি ভবিষ্যৎ প্রজন্মের জন্য বয়ে আনবে শান্তি আর সমৃদ্ধি।
Left side is Amami systems. Right side is Amami's happy family. Clean rainwater is collected through flexible pipe after discharging contaminated water. This is outcome of Amami's social enterprise. Not only waterborne diseases and fetching water, but also water costs were reduced. Amami's social enterprise for BOP people as mother business is effective to solve drinking water crisis, but it is low profitability. To make mother business sustainable, integrate Amami's social enterprise model should be considered. Let's Mr. Wahido, who is Managing Director of Skywater Bangladesh, follow up.
Mr. Wahido, please make a short comment.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Very good afternoon. I'm from Bangladesh. I'm Managing Director of Skywater Bangladesh. Since last 2 decades, I'm working with the great man, Mr. Maktoum Murasi. He's working here for resolve the crisis of safe drinking water. As you see, he told that this is not sustainable if we only construct and sell the Amamis, little Amamis. For sustainability of the business, we also make and produce the big rainwater reservoir. We recently we installed 7 rainwater harvesting tank in 7 school come shelter. School come shelter in Chittagong, the port city, under the governance of LGED and the JICA, funded by JICA. And we are very happy to see that while the people are now using the that rainwater as drinking water. In the previous video I saw, Mr. Jahid from Pakistan told that the people are not thinking that the rainwater is good for drinking. Yes, it is right. In our country also, people's thought is like that. But if you go to the coastal area, you can see the crisis, how the people feel about the good water. Now we are planning to go to the Teknaf area where the Rohingyas are living. We also install and produce in 2 schools the rainwater tanks. So all the rainwater harvesting systems are the inventor actually in Bangladesh, started by Dr. Maktoum Murasi, and we are very grateful to him. And we are doing this enterprise to continue by the support of our people. This is a very great work done by Mr. Maktoum Murasi. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wahido. Good comment. It's my presentation. That's all. Thank you for attention.
Thank you, Dr. Makota and Mr. Wahid, for excellent presentation. You have really given a new dimension that how these social enterprises can be developed for this promotion of rainwater harvesting, and you have a good experience from Bangladesh. So this kind of experience, maybe it can be implemented in other countries too. So I am sure there will be a lot of questions. We will go during discussion part. Thank you very much, both of you. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Sachini Navoda, the third presenter. She is from Sri Lanka. She graduated from the University of Colombo, Sri Lanka. BSc honors degree in business and environment from the Department of Geology and Environment Science. And she carried out research project on rainwater harvesting in Sri Lanka as a partial fulfillment of the degree program. And she is currently working as in Mass Intimates Private Limited, Sri Lanka. Now the floor is yours. Please, you can continue your presentation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sachini Navoda from University of Colombo, Sri Lanka. This study is on the potential of rainwater harvesting in Sri Lanka and its relevance for retail banking products. Other authors are Mr. Hemantha Senivaratna of Hatton National Bank, Dr. Tanuja Aryanand of Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Forum, and Professor Nirmali Pallevatha of University of Colombo. Today, water scarcity has become a major issue in the world, and there are many reasons for that. Ineffective water management, lack of policies and technologies, socioeconomic causes like poor awareness and attitudes, and more than everything else, climate change become main cause for the issue. This problem affects every living natural fauna and flora. Therefore, most countries try to find sustainable solution to address the water scarcity. Sri Lanka's climate can be described as tropical. Most land areas in Sri Lanka receives an average rainfall of at least 1,250 millimeters annually. But today, rainfall patterns are changing dramatically due to climate change. And also, according to the climate change prediction, it is clear that in Sri Lanka, there will be increase in intensity of rainfall, and at the same time, there will be prolonged dry periods. So the country needs practical solution to address this negative scenario.
No sound.
Problem affect every living natural fauna and flora. Therefore, most countries try to find sustainable solution to address the water scarcity. Sri Lanka's climate can be described as tropical. Most land areas in Sri Lanka receives an average rainfall of at least 1,250 millimeters annually. But today, rainfall patterns are changing dramatically due to climate change. And also, according to the climate change prediction, it is clear that in Sri Lanka, there will be increase in intensity of rainfall, and at the same time, there will be prolonged dry periods. So the country needs practical solution to address this negative scenario.
Organizer, could you please support? What is the problem?
We have a problem with the video. Sachin, do you have the video with you?
Oh, yeah.
Can you share your screen, please?
Okay.
I have given you the. Put the sound share.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see. Please put share sound. Sachin, can you share sounds?
Oh, okay.
Tick the box below, share sound. When you share, then you will have the sounds.
Become main cause for the issue. Okay. This
Yes,
problem
thanks.
affects every living natural fauna and flora. Therefore, most countries try to find sustainable solution to address the water scarcity. Sri Lanka's climate can be described as tropical. Most land areas in Sri Lanka receives an average rainfall of at least 1,250 millimeters annually. But today, rainfall patterns are changing dramatically due to climate change. And also, according to the climate change prediction, it is clear that in Sri Lanka, there will be increase in intensity of rainfall, and at the same time, there will be prolonged dry periods. So the country needs practical solution to address this negative scenario. For developing tropical countries, rainwater harvesting can be identified as the most suitable low-cost strategy with minimum technology compared with other expensive methods like seawater purification or wastewater treatment. This concept is not totally new to Sri Lankans because we have great history linked with rainwater harvesting. Our ancient kings built large water tanks for rainwater harvesting, especially for agricultural purposes in dry zone. Although the necessity of water is more in the dry zone, the consistency of rainfall is low there. Therefore, storage facilities are necessary to store a large quantity of water in the dry zone, which need a large investment as well. Due to this, domestic level rainwater harvesting becomes challenging in the dry zone. Domestic rainwater harvesting is mostly suitable for wet zone because this area receives good rainfall throughout the year, and it is sufficient to refill the commercially available domestic rainwater harvesting tanks. This study is focused on introducing a loan scheme for installing rainwater harvesting systems at domestic level. First, a literature survey was done to gather information on rainwater harvesting technology and status of rainwater harvesting in other countries. Some professionals in water sector in Sri Lanka were interviewed to get their perception on rainwater harvesting as well as to obtain information on current status in various projects to establish domestic rainwater harvesting systems. The three districts, Colombo, Galle, and K-Galle, with different population densities and socio-economic levels, were selected as the study area to represent the wet zone of Sri Lanka. 3 surveys have been conducted in this study. The first is for people who do not have rainwater harvesting system in their houses. A hypothesis test was done for the sample to scientifically prove the research findings. The second survey was carried out for the people who already have rainwater harvesting systems, and the third was done for the management level officers of selected retail banks. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, field visits were not possible as planned. All interviews were carried out online. According to the finding of the study, there are 3 main water-related issues that the people in the wet zone of the country are facing. The main issue is interruption of water supply due to drying of water sources in many areas. The second one is high water bill, and people who live in urbanized areas mostly face this problem. The third one is water in some domestic water sources is not suitable for human consumption. Regarding the awareness level of community on rainwater harvesting, 52% of respondents knew what is rainwater harvesting, but 48% of them were not aware of rainwater harvesting. 61% of respondents expressed their willingness to apply for a bank loan to install a rainwater harvesting system. Through the hypothesis test result, it is scientifically proved that rainwater harvesting related banking product is socially acceptable in the wet zone of Sri Lanka. These are the major barriers to implement rainwater harvesting system in Sri Lanka. The initial cost of installation of a rainwater harvesting system is high, and no banking product currently available in the market for rainwater harvesting. Also, National Water Supply and Drainage Board provide their water supply at a subsidized rate, and therefore people who already have National Water Supply and Drainage Board supply totally depend on pipe-borne water that purified for drinking purposes for all their water requirements, including water in the gardens, washing vehicles, and toilet flushing. This is a waste of resources. Another barrier is the lack of incentives from the authorities for rainwater harvesting. This has created a situation where using pipe-borne water is cheaper and easier than installing and maintaining a rainwater harvesting system. The public awareness level of community about rainwater harvesting is also poor. Although Sri Lanka has a policy for rainwater harvesting, there is no evidence of implementation of policy. The main finding of the study is that rainwater harvesting has the potential to apply widely in the wet zone of Sri Lanka. A retail banking product to install domestic rainwater harvesting system is socially acceptable. Based on the result of this study, these are our recommendations. Law and policies relevant to rainwater harvesting in the country should be enforced. A business model is necessary for bank and other financial institutions that demonstrate the benefit of rainwater harvesting and how it helps to achieve their business goal. Architects should be sensitized to design the houses and other buildings enabling rainwater harvesting. For example, design new houses with panel roof can be identified. And also, Sri Lanka needs an adequate system of monitoring the policy implementation and gaps. Attitudes toward water conservation and rainwater harvesting should be developed, especially in school levels. There are many social, economic, and cultural obstacles preventing rainwater harvesting from being applied widely. Therefore, it is important to identify those challenges and find a solution. I wish to conclude the presentation with the remark that considering the rainfall patterns in the wet zone, domestic rainfall harvesting can be implemented as a successful climate change adaptation strategy in Sri Lanka. Finally, I would like to thank Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Forum and the staff for providing valuable information for the study. The support received from the Department of Zoology and Environmental Sciences, University of Colombo throughout the study is gratefully acknowledged. We thank Hatton National Bank and other banks who supported by responding to the survey, Ms. Kusum Atukorala, Mr. Lalit Seniviratna, Mr. Modha Kodkararachi for their valuable ideas regarding the study and all respondents of survey questionnaires. And also, I would like to thank SARNET Conference Committee for organizing this event. This is a great opportunity for us to present our finding in an international conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Sachini, for a wonderful presentation. You have brought new ideas from this research that what is the potential of rainwater harvesting in Sri Lanka, and how this financing mechanism can be adopted, what are the hindrances, and you have brought up many suggestions like even there is some enforcement of policy gap. So these things definitely will help for the promotion of rainwater in your country, similar to other countries too. This is very helpful presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, I would like to open this floor for a discussion part. So, is there any question on the chat box? Any, or you can just raise your hand and you can have question to the speaker.
Chairman, there's one question for Mr. Sunil.
Yeah.
Please explain how we can produce a biogas with kitchen waste, how much quantity we need of kitchen waste.
Well, actually, I have 3 types of biodigesters. One is 1000-liter capacity one, the other one is 750 liters, the other one is 225 liters capacity one. Actually, for the 1000-liter capacity digester, we can feed 3 kilos per day. That is the maximum amount. And for the 750 liters one, about 2, and for 225-liter capacity one, 1 kilogram. Actually, in a family with 4 members, the total collection of biodegradable waste from the kitchen is about 1 to 1.5 kilos. So that is not enough for all my digesters. Like what I do is I bring some fruit waste from market, and in addition to my kitchen waste, I put them into the digesters. Actually, I can cover all my gas requirement from my biogas digesters. From my research, I could find I could get 156 liters of biogas from 1 kilo of biodegradable kitchen waste. So in a family with 4 members, the total requirement of biogas is about 800 liters per day. So I get about 350 liters and 400 liters per a day from my 3 digesters.
There is a question for Sachini. According to your studies, if there is a product in the market, would the bank offer loans?
According to my study, the banks are still evaluating how this project is a success or not. So currently there are no bank products still exclusively available for rainwater harvesting. So I think they need new business models, how this kind of project help to achieve their business goal and also sustainable development goals.
May I add something to that? I'm Nirmali. I'm one of the co-authors of that paper, Tanuja. May I add something?
Yes, please, Professor.
Right, yeah. All I wanted to say is that, see, during the period that she carried this out, this was the COVID-19, situation, and there was a lot of risk hesitancy, if I may put it that way, in Sri Lankan banks. No surprises there, right? But I do think that if the banks are willing to offer a product, right, maybe not immediately, but maybe next year when we hope things will get back to normal, that there will be takers, because as we have discussed, it's not the technical issues that are holding people back, but mostly their lack of awareness, or if I may put it somewhat ignorance, and the lack of opportunities to use rainwater harvesting. Thank you.
To Sachini, is there any kind of guidance from the central bank to finance in rainwater harvesting promotion or any WAS related project in Sri Lanka?
Yeah,
we don't have this kind of system in Nepal particularly.
Yeah, in 2019, there's the roadmap of sustainable finance in Sri Lanka. It's clearly mentioned about this kind of loans, like green loans, but still not available in Sri Lanka.
Sachin, I mean, your presentation is really good. I was really impressed by your presentation, because this is something that we really have to carry forward. But what I want to find out is, now, when you say that people are still ignorant about rainwater harvesting, is it the banking sector, or is it the users that you interviewed? Or did you interview users at all?
No, the bank sector is still evaluating how this kind of loan is success or not. The community is it's acceptable. They are willing to, most of them are willing to apply such kind of loan.
Okay, so which means, I mean, if let's say, for instance, if the Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Forum can, improve the awareness of the banking sector or capacitate the banking sector on rainwater harvesting, do you think that they will come forward with loans?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you.
In fact, if I can also add in, Rajendra and Sachini, with our experience, we have been trying to get loans for the beneficiaries to install rainwater harvesting system. Except for the 1 or 2 rural banks, we have not had luck with any of the other major banks. So as you rightly point out, Sachini, I think we need to work more with the banks, the main banks, to get give loans to the beneficiaries who are interested.
Mr. Chairman, can I add a word?
Yes, please.
I think the first presentation and the last presentation connect very well. I mean, if we can argue that rainwater harvesting is not only for domestic purposes directly in terms of drinking and cooking, but can also enhance the opportunity, as shown by Sunil, for improving your kitchen farming and maybe a little bit more small livestock, chickens and all that, then of course the bank should gradually become interested. As a matter of fact, I was just asking Nirmal from Nepal which bank it was we used in Nepal, because Ramdeep, you said we didn't try. We tried, and we had at some stage, somewhere around 2013 or so, we found a bank in Pokhara willing to entertain the thought and issue loans. Similar to a loan for a motorbike or something like that. Somehow it didn't happen fully, But I'm sure there is opportunity. But the question is that we have to clarify to the banks the positive aspects that also have an economic benefit. And I'm sure then they are willing to consider.
Thank you. Any other questions or suggestions?
Could I get Mr. Andit to share some of the work you are doing in Nepal with Smart Wash?
Yeah.
For a few minutes before you conclude.
Yeah, actually, we are promoting this. In fact, this rainwater harvesting is one part. We had conducted one international conference, then second regional conference, then national conference, 3-4 conferences we have already. So actually, we are working for this policy lobbying and how we can promote this rainwater harvesting in Nepal. There are lots of organizations working in Nepal at different levels. So how we can convince the federal government, provincial government, and this local government for implementation. So we are working in that field. So actually for financing model, we had some discussion with the bankers too, and then we had 3 different webinar on financing what was projects, and then in those webinar we came to know that one of the banker that in hydro projects there is a kind of some kind of circulation from the central government. Some part of portions you have to invest for different climate change project or hydro projects, some sort of. But similarly, this kind of instruction is not from the for this WAS financing. So we have been trying to lobbying our central government how we can increase this financing in the WAS sector. So maybe that will be useful for the future WAS activities, including this rainwater harvesting.
Thank you, Mr. Adit, for sharing those things. So we can conclude the session now. Thank you again.
Now, first of all, I would like to thanks all the speakers. So you had a wonderful presentation, 2 from Sri Lanka and 1 from Japan. Actually worked based on Bangladesh. So this rainwater is a precious gift of nature and primary sources of all water sources. So harvesting need to be promoted at all levels for multiple benefits. We should use old wisdom, learning from indigenous technology, and increase effectiveness, efficiencies by using modern scientific tools and technology. And there is a lack of funding in this business. So we need to attract and support the private sector who can see rainwater harvesting as a viable business, like just presented by Dr. Mokotu. And we also have a kind of enabling, we have to create enabling environment to work as a private sector in this business. I am happy and proud to be a part of SARNET. Smart Wash Solution is a member of SARNET. And I would like to express my sincere thanks to Mr. Rajendra Bandhu, Chairperson of SARNET, Dr. Tanuja Ariyanda, Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Forum, CEO of, and thanks, and Mr. Han Aijan, IRSA, and thanks to reporters, all speakers and participants. I hereby close the session 5 now. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Randip sir, for your support. Thank you.
Technical Session 6. Rainwater Harvesting for Health and Water Quality. Now I would like to give a brief introduction on Chairperson and Rapporteur of this session. Mr. Ayer Mohammed has long years of experience in designing and executing multidisciplinary research and training projects in the areas of agrarian development and natural resources management with a special focus on socio-economic and institutional issues associated with natural resources management. He has served many leading government sector organizations, donor agencies, NGOs, and at private sector. He is currently a researcher at the International Water Management Institution, Colombo, Sri Lanka, and also a board member at Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Forum. Dr. Polanki Sivaram is a development researcher and a trainer with long years of experience in National Institute of Rural Development. Dr. Sivaram has also contributed as a researcher for several research projects on different aspects of rural development. Currently, Dr. Sivaram is working as a freelancer consultant on drinking water and sanitation in India. Now I would like to invite Mr. Mohammed Ayer and Professor Polanki Sivaram to take over this session.
Thank you very much for kind words and the introduction. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure and honor to me to share this final session of this very important timely conference we are having in last 2 days. We all know safe drinking water is a basic need for good health, and it is also a basic right of the human being. So quality of water is being hot topic in the recent part, especially with this pandemic. Health and hygiene are one of the important topic discussed in the recent part. Despite the improvement in the recent decades, access to good quality drinking water remains a critical issue. So it's a growing global concern as well. So according to WHO, about 10% of the population in the world do not have access to improve drinking water sources. And it is one of the UN SDG goal as well. Every year, about 1 million people die from the waterborne disease like diarrhea, and that include cholera as well. More recently, the problem of quality water has diverted from waterborne disease to some non-communicable diseases like cancers and the CKDU. So it is a growing concern and the important topic discussed in the recent past linked with the quality water. So rainwater is considered to be one of the good quality water, and it's a good source to meet the health and hygienic demands. In this session, we have very important papers to be presented by two eminent scholars. So let me introduce the first speaker. Archana Shrestha is from Nepal. She is pursuing a master's degree in environmental science from Tribhuvan University in Nepal. She works with the NGO Guti that works in the field of water, sanitation, environment, and education. She is interested in water conservation and sanitation improvement work in the communities. Archana, floor is for you. Please unmute.
Namaste, it's me Archana Shrestha, Program Coordinator at Guti from Nepal. I'm presenting here today on water quality assessment of rain-fed traditional stone spouts in Chandagiri municipality. Introduction. Stone spouts are traditionally existing channelized spout structure which is the major source of water for the inhabitants of Kathmandu Valley. In average, 1343 mm of the rainfall occurs in the municipality, which could be a better source of water for functioning of all these stone spouts. But with the rapid urbanization, there has been the lack of water and also a safe drinking water at the valley, and has caused the various diseases such as diarrhea, dysentery, typhoid, fever, cholera, and so on. The major objective of this study is to analyze the status of the water quality of traditionally rain-fed stone spouts present in Chandagiri municipality. From the idea of constructing the rain-fed ponds, our ancestors have been able to link this idea into the construction of rain-fed stone spouts to meet the demand of water supply of the urban population. It has been considered that the stone spouts were the first hydraulic structures in Nepal, especially in Kathmandu Valley, that was used to collect and distribute the drinking water. We can see the structure of crocodile or snake in the stone spout crafted with stone and metals, that from where the water is coming out. It is channelized from some distance away from the spring or shallow aquifer, and the joints are attached, sealed with impermeable clay soil called gathacha in Nevari language. These aquifers of stone spouts are recharged through precipitation and also the state canals known as Rajgulo. Moving to sampling method, in this study, I have applied a graph sampling method where a thorough survey over the municipality was done, where 12 stone spouts were found, and among them 6 stone spouts were in the flowing condition. Water samples were collected in sampling bottles, and the stopper of the sample container were closed properly. This sampling was done in between 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And for the microbial analysis, the sterilized sampling bottle wrapped with aluminum foil was used in order to reduce the chance of contamination during the sample collection. Each of the sampling bottles were coded according to the sampling site. During this study of water quality, the various parameters were tested, and the test methods included pH, temperature, electrical conductivity, total dissolved solid through electrometrical method, while total hardness and calcium hardness through EDTA method, chloride through organometric method, ammonia through Nessler's methods, iron through phenanthrone method, and the total coliform, the bacteriological test with Ampian method. With this study, we found that the values were within the National Drinking Water Quality Standard as well as the WHO guidelines. In the study, we have conducted the water quality test in two different seasons, that is summer and winter, and we can observe that most of the values were greater in summer than in the winter, but the dissolved oxygen was found to but while moving towards the bacteriological test done through the Ampian method, that is most probable number method in 95% confidence, the Ampian per 100 ml was found to be greater than zero in every season and in every sampling sites, indicating that the water is not suitable for drinking. Discussion. The National Drinking Water Quality Standard and the WHO guideline have set some of the standards that need to be followed for determining whether the water is drinkable or not. All the parameters used in this study, that is especially physiochemical parameters, meets the standard, but the bacteriological parameter, total coliform test, was found to be higher than the standards. Conclusion and recommendation. All the physiochemical parameter analyzed in 6 different spouts was found to be within the limit of the National Drinking Water Quality, but the bacteriological analysis of the water from the sampled rain-fed stone spout was rendered unfit for drinking, as the value was found to be greater than the standard. Hence, the regular monitoring should be carried out to check up the quality of water for drinking purpose. These traditional stone spouts have a great importance, but these are lacking these days, and the proper groundwater recharge system should be considered for the proper functioning of these stone spout. The increasing urbanization have led to the increase in the concrete pavement, reducing the infiltration and percolation, and also has been the cause for the bacteriological contamination of water through the seepage of septic tank. Hence, there should be proper rainwater recharge system in the municipality. The government, concerned agencies, and the local people should pay attention to these traditionally rain-fed stone spouts for the protection, preservation, and maintenance of the water resources, and also have to avoid the practice of deep boring that might be cause for declining the groundwater system. Thank you.
Thank you, Archana, for your excellent presentation. It's a very interesting paper pointing on traditional wisdom of rainwater harvesting in Nepal. I think we can go for the discussion at the end. If you have any question, you can also use the chat box so we can moderate in the later part of this session. Next, I wish to invite Dr. Hilmi Sali. Dr. Hilmi Sali has a distinguished career for more than 40 years in international arena of research and development. He has a long career at International Water Management Institute, where I am working now. Happy to meet you, Hilmi. And also he has worked for different international organizations like AFDB, IFAD, Millennium Challenge Corporation, CEDA, and various other organizations. And also he has a number of peer review international publication in various journals. Mr. Hilmi Sali, this is for you.
Mr. Hilmi, please unmute yourself.
Please unmute Mr. Hilmi Sali.
There we go. Right. Okay. Thanks. Okay. Is the screen visible to everybody?
Yes, it is.
Okay, lovely. Okay, right. Okay. So the aim of this presentation is to share our experiences in providing a water-related response to a serious health and livelihood issue that is affecting rural households in Sri Lanka's dry zone. So this was done through a partnership between the Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Foundation that all of you know, and IDEAS, which is the acronym for Initiatives in Development of Entrepreneur Approaches and Strategies. So IDEAS, that is now in existence for 25 years, is a private non-profit organization dedicated to promoting the growth of small and medium-scale enterprises and entrepreneurs, both individual and community-led. So we do that by providing technical assistance and funding support. Funding support by way of grants on the one hand, and both interest-free and collateral-free, I emphasize, loans. In addition, IDEAS offers outright grants to critical and highly deserving community initiatives such as the Rainwater Harvesting Foundation and organizations at the forefront of tackling the human-elephant conflict in the country. So what is it that we actually did together? We at IDEAS are essentially accompanying or have accompanied and supported the work and the efforts that Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Foundation is undertaking to promote the use of rainwater harvesting tanks. But we are focusing on a specific target group, that is communities in the north central, northwestern, and Uva provinces of Sri Lanka that are affected by chronic kidney disease of unknown etiology, CKDU. As you will observe on these two maps, these provinces that I referred to earlier have the highest proportion of CKDU affected households. In certain districts, they range from 10, 15, and even as much as 20% of the households. So this is not the forum to go into the origins and the root causes of CKDU, because much research has been conducted and on the subject over the past 20 odd years. However, the underlying cause of this chronic kidney disease remains still a matter of debate and discussion. Hence, the qualification unknown etiology of in CKDU. However, where there appears to be consensus is on the evidence suggesting two things. One is that CKDU mainly affects rural communities that have historically used groundwater as their predominant drinking water source. And secondly, access to safe drinking water helps to reduce the disease burden associated with CKDU. So the government of Sri Lanka, in order to address this situation, is adopting a two-pronged response. Firstly, to provide pipe-borne potable water supply to rural households through its rural water supply program, community water supply schemes. And secondly, to support the installation of community-based reverse osmosis or RO units in the affected areas. But we know that the supplying water on tap to remote and scattered village households is not always a feasible or viable proposition, given the capital investment and the O&M costs associated with that. Furthermore, the CKDU affected households, especially where the able-bodied members or family members might be CKDU affected, may not have the resources, time, as well as money to avail themselves of RO water. There is travel involved to the RO plant location and payments, modest as they may be, for the purpose of for the purchase of the RO water. And as in a previous presentation, it was highlighted that access is further complicated due to COVID-imposed travel restrictions. So in such a context, rainwater harvesting offers households an attractive alternative, especially for cooking and drinking purposes. So the partnership between IDEAS and the Rainwater Harvesting Foundation, therefore, sort of in 2017, we kicked off by identifying 10 households for the installation of rooftop rainwater harvesting systems, 5 from the Vavuniya district and 5 from Anuradhapura. The choice of tank recommended after assessment by rainwater harvesting technical teams was to use an 8,000 litre capacity ferrocement tank above ground, equipped with the usual flush systems, filters, safety lids, etc. So the results from this experience were quite encouraging. And so motivated by by the positive feedback and the success from this initial lot of beneficiaries, IDEAS and Rainwater Harvesting Foundation decided to scale up our efforts and to provide to scale up from individual to institution level support, notably targeting hospitals in the affected areas, hospitals that were treating both in and outpatients, including notably CKDU affected people. The hospitals, moreover, had difficulties in meeting their water requirements. They had a pipe-borne water supply, which was, not always reliable. There was a price to pay as well. You were using their on-site wells, and they were purchasing water through drinking water bowsers as well. So in response to appeals from these hospitals, we decided to go to support them by the installation of larger, what we call institutional size, 16,000 litre capacity ferrocement tanks. So in doing this, a sort of we established a sort of a tripartite alliance, shall we say. On the one hand, we had the beneficiaries whose responsibilities and contributions went from choosing and allocating, preparing a suitable location, installing gutters and balance board where required, and so providing meals, accommodation, and other assistance to construction crews during the period of construction, and most importantly, assigning a person or persons to be responsible for O&M thereafter, post-installation. Lanka Rainwater Harvesting, for its part, designed and supervised the installation of the tanks and conducted awareness and O&M training programs for O&M for the designated beneficiaries, both at individual, household, and institutional level. And ideas provided the funding. The next slide shows just a few pictures to break the monotony of the presentation. On the left, we have a series of household rainwater harvesting tanks, 8,000 liter capacity, as I mentioned. And on the right-hand side, the larger institutional sized water tanks installed at the hospitals. Here on the right, we see a training program in progress at one of the hospitals, and the bottom right-hand photograph shows the staff members responsible for O&M at the Rajangana Hospital. So let us move now and discuss some of our key findings. It's quite clear that the provision of rainwater harvesting tanks contributes to improving the health, well-being, and environment of less privileged segments of the rural society in two ways. On the one hand, rainwater harvesting helps to capture, filter, and store much of the rainfall that might otherwise go to waste. And secondly, the rainwater harvested water provides beneficiaries with a source of clean water for drinking and cooking purposes. Moreover, the household beneficiaries were very glad to be relieved of the time and expense of having to purchase drinking water from the community-run RO plants located 1, sometimes 2 kilometers away. And I think very remarkably and notably, householders unanimously appreciated what they call the taste of the harvested rainwater, as opposed to the hard water otherwise available in their dug wells in the dry zone. So we think that this clear consumer preference for the palatability of the rainwater harvested water possibly results in a higher daily water intake. So the consumption, we said earlier, the consumption of clean drinking water in adequate quantities has shown to have a beneficial effect on the CKDU sufferer, probably by helping to flush the kidneys of any toxins when taken in adequate quantities. One other sort of side or secondary or unintended positive benefit during the COVID-19 pandemic was the fact that we observed at one of the hospitals that the tank, the rainwater harvested water, was being used by the hospital for instrument cleaning and general washing purposes, again without and relatively clean water. So they could actually use this for these for even purposes such as instrument cleaning. Let me now wrap up with some concluding remarks and a possible policy recommendation. So rainwater harvesting does offer does have merit in situations where pipe-borne drinking water, supply of pipe-borne drinking water is not feasible, especially when the groundwater in a dug well or a borehole, which are the usual sources for rural water, community water supply schemes, show elevated concentrations of hardness and fluoride, which are costly to remove. There is a difference in average cost of installing or supplying a rainwater harvesting tank as opposed to a pipe-borne water supply. The numbers are there, you can see. But with recognizing that a pipe-borne supply does offer the added advantage of serving all household purposes, from drinking and cooking to washing and bathing, whereas a household rainwater harvesting tank is limited to supplying cooking and drinking water. However, in the case of the pipe-borne water supply, households will have to pay a consumption charge, a monthly charge based on consumption. Whereas in the case of a rainwater harvesting system, the only cost would be for periodic maintenance of the installation. So finally, by way of a recommendation, we suggest that the government of Sri Lanka add a third prong to its hitherto two-pronged approach in its water-related response to the CKDU problem in Sri Lanka. That is to recognize the potential of rainwater harvesting and offer adequate technical and funding support to promote this technology among community and household levels as a means of also alleviating the CKDU burden, in parallel, of course, with investments aimed at increasing access to safe piped water supply. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Helmi Sali. Your presentation, it was very well presented and very interesting paper. And it's a real field experience from the CKDU affected area. So now these two papers are open for discussion. Any question or clarification, you are welcome to ask.
Hello.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the nice presentation. My name is Ziggy. I'm at the UNICEF Pakistan country office, and I have an interest in rainwater harvesting because I also implemented a similar program in Zimbabwe with support from USAID around 2009, soon after the cholera outbreak. So we did install this in schools and also in households. But one of the challenges we faced was the issue of demand, considering that where we installed these rainwater harvesting tanks, the suburbs, they didn't receive municipal water. Hence, there was increased demand from the neighbors. And we also witnessed some conflicts where neighbors would come to demand water from the beneficiaries. So I just want to know whether this is something which you came across and how the communities have managed to deal with this. That's number one. Number two is to do with the water quality, considering that the water will stay maybe long, given the size of the tanks. And so I just want to know whether you managed to assess the water, whether the water quality will deteriorate over time or it remain the same. Thank you.
Chair, I guess that question was for me, was it?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ziggy. Yeah. As far as the water, water sharing, indeed, that is, in fact, we quite in contrast to considering as a potential area of conflict, we found that actually there was a lot of community sort of sharing in this, that there was willingness and a lot of sort of let's say collaboration. In people were happy to share that. And I think it seemed to be from the visits we paid and the discussions with the beneficiaries, they didn't consider it a burden as such. They were happy to share. And I think the neighbors also, if in the case they were able-bodied, this was really in times of an emergency. For example, if their usual water source was, say, the RO plant nearby, say in case of a temporary emergency, they would perhaps approach their neighbors with who possess the rainwater harvest tank for 5 or 10 liters of water really as an emergency measure. Insofar as the water quality is concerned, I will let Tanuja as well, if she's around, to come into that. But I think the work of the Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Foundation, they do have done quality test. I'm not sure at what frequency that was done after post installation. Tanuja, you might want to come in and help me on that question.
Yeah, sure, Dr. Saleh.
Yeah.
Yes, water quality is usually, we find that about 40% of the systems we test, 40 to 45% has zero E. coli quality. And others, about 60 to 65%, about 10 E. coli counts. But chemically, it is always within the Sri Lankan standard on EC, pH, conductivity, etc. So quality-wise, of course, your particular community, where I can't remember if we tested it, but generally, frequently, we test it, and that is usually the observation we get.
Any other question? Dr. Hilmi Saleh, can I ask a question as a chair? Sure. It's not a question, it's just my experience. You presented very interesting finding that rainwater quality taste is preferred by the community because of no taste or compared to hard water. But from JEFNA, we have observed that some of the beneficiaries, so most of the beneficiaries, don't like rainwater because there is no taste. They used to lime taste water. So what people do there is they mix with lime with rainwater and providing to the community. So it's quite interesting and quite different with this North Central community and the JEFNA community.
Yeah, if I might just add, Chair, it's true. Also, the other thing is they were comparing with essentially the almost tasteless sort of demineralized RO water. They said this really has body to it. Like drinking a good wine compared to water. He said this is real good stuff. They found RO water completely bland. So that's the the comparison with the RO water as well. So I'm sure the addition of lime and all that, it just must be a socio-cultural kind of habit, I guess.
Yeah, here just one question from my side.
Yes.
Since listening to Dr. Hilmi's presentation, something that I picked up that we as the forum can do probably, hopefully we have some funding in future, is to test water over a period of time. I mean, we have been doing water quality test on and off depending on the projects and depending on the funds available. But I think something very interesting, what you're saying, Hilmi, is that, over a period of time, I mean, let's say 6 months or 1 year, right? How does it change? Because we really don't have an answer for that. I mean, sporadic ones, one-time test, yes, we do have, right? But over a time, we don't have. I think that's something that we need to think about from the forum side. Thank you, Hilmi.
Yeah, perhaps could I just respond or sort of compliment that? I think it's a very valid suggestion, Rajendra. So I guess maybe on your side, perhaps it's to, like Tanuja said, there's perhaps a set of key kind of parameters or indicators that you would want to test for over time. So I wonder whether, I don't know, what is the availability of sort of rapid tests or quick kits that either your field officers or that even householders could use and sort of telephone in the results periodically. I'm not sure if that. So that is something that perhaps we could think about.
Yeah, that's right.
Hello. Any other question? Yeah. Yes, please. Go ahead.
I'm Shekhar Raghavan from Chennai, India. I have a question. Am I audible?
Please go ahead. Yeah, you are able. Very well.
Yeah. So I think the speaker made a statement that the CKD thing came from drinking well water, or borewell water. I mean, that's a very, very dangerous statement to make. Because what will happen is people, if they start ignoring open wells and bore wells, that shows entire groundwater is being ignored. We should really find ways and means of finding out where the pollutant has come from and what remedial measures needs to be taken, rather than saying I will ignore groundwater and go in for this ferrocement tanks. Not that it's not a good idea, but then we can't be constructing these ferrocement tanks in large numbers because they are expensive. It has only limited scope. Unlike see, we in Chennai, we are in fact encouraging more and more open wells to be dug. We want people to tap the shallow aquifer. And if there is any contamination, we look at it as to why there is a contamination and what steps needs to be taken to prevent it, rather than taking a very. I'm not saying he did that. Probably I did not understand him. But groundwater is one important source of water, and we can't afford to ignore it completely. Thank you.
May I respond, Chairperson? Mr. Raghavan,
Yeah.
yes, I think yes, I think you did misunderstand me. What I said was it was found that, and to start off, let me back off. The very definition of the disease or terminology CKDU, with U on the unknown etiology, clearly emphasizes the fact that we do not know or know as yet what the root cause is. So what I was saying was the evidence so far shows that most of the people affected by CKDU have a history of consumption of groundwater. So, and groundwater, especially, this is from what I have read, I'm not an expert, I'm not an epidemiologist or whatever, but my understanding is that groundwater, especially if it is high in level of fluoride, would have a tendency of aggravating a kidney disease. If a person is affected, already has weak kidneys, consuming water with high fluoride content would aggravate the condition. That's one. And secondly, if the groundwater being hard and people are rather hesitant in consuming it in adequate quantities. Don't forget, these are rural farmers working under very, very hot, severe conditions, very hot and dry. And if they do not consume enough water, obviously they're going to get dehydrated, which again would aggravate any other underlying conditions with their kidneys. So there is, as I said, the root cause of the disease is very much a topic still for debate and discussion. So no, we are not discouraging the use of groundwater. What we said was it becomes clearly a solution that has merit in situations where the quality of groundwater is such that, this, such as a presence of hardness, presence of fluorides, which might indicate that their removal is rather costly. So in those situations, the rainwater harvesting solution does have merit and should be examined.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yeah, Doctor, here, this is Sivaram. Can I share some of the things?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
these two papers
Professor
are
Shivaram, yeah,
excellent.
Professor Shivaram is serving as a rapporteur of this session, so he can provide some key highlights of these both papers. I like to invite him to make some notes on this. Please go ahead, Professor Shivaram.
Are you able to listen me?
Yes, very well.
Yeah, I'm speaking from a phone. Okay, these two presenters are really, they mentioned very well. Excellently they presented. That's, I must congratulate them. The most important thing just now, this one I'll present it, Mr. Sali. Yeah, this paper really triggered to discuss or to ponder more and more. Even I feel, and coming to the, I'll tell my observations afterwards. And coming to this one, the observations, whatever highlights, I'll make it. Yeah, no doubt in dry zone of Sri Lanka, northwestern and the north central provinces are considered as the dry zones. And here, and it found that CKD, that is a chronic kidney diseases. Yes, I do not know why till now it has not been found, because it may be one of the reasons. Even in the literature it is there, mercury. If mercury is there, chronic, there are the chances of getting out or getting this CKDs. That I do not know till now. I think government of Sri Lanka should take care to find out the reason for that. Okay. And another important factor here, they mentioned this RO water. RO water is no doubt, okay. At one point of time in India, the RO water, it went, even it touched the pinnacle stage. Now the government of India, they have banned RO water. No question of, especially Ministry of Jal Shakti, they said that, we have to stop for RO water. No doubt, you can drink all chemical contaminations, they can reduce it and they can provide it. But at the same time, even permissible limits also sometimes it is coming down. Another important thing is, if you want to make 1 liter of drinkable water in RO, you have to really waste 1/4 of liter. That is really questionable. Again, the disposable mechanism of that wastewater, we do not know. Again, with all heavy metals, we are throwing somewhere else, and again it will go to subsurfaces. It will be again becoming problem. So that's why in India it is controlling that. One must to take care of this thing in Sri Lanka. And the point here, the ideas and Lanka rainwater harvesting forum, they really promoted this paper. Envisages promoted rainwater harvesting, that which is highly appreciable. And nearly they spent, the paper envisages that nearly they spent $7,000 for distributing to the people for construction of rainwater harvesting. This is really highly appreciable. Once again, I want to mention it. These are the highlights of second paper. Coming to the another paper, that is assessment of drinking water quality of stone spouts in Chandragiri municipality, that too 4th ward. Yes, here, and as per the paper, that chemical contamination parameters are permissible limits as per the drinking water mission of Nepal. But coming to the point she mentioned in the paper, that bacteriological contamination is clearly visible, and that must be taken care. And in the recommendation, she mentioned that regular quality surveillance, that is monitoring, is required. Yes, this is one I found in many papers. Quality monitoring is regularly must be done. Otherwise, okay, chemical contamination we are following, but at the same time, the bacteriological contamination also to be controlled. And another point that she mentioned, preservation and protection of traditional sources, which are very, very important. That can be used for supplementary sources of water, like that she mentioned. Yeah, another last recommendation, it was mentioned that people should boil and drink the water. Yes, that must be the buzzword in Nepal. And all the surface water, like Kerala in India, they boil and drink the water. That most of the problems will be solved. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahir, for giving me opportunity to present it.
Thank you, Professor Shivaram, nicely summarizing the two papers. Before closing the session, presenters like to make any comments on this, Archana?
Yeah, only one point I wanted to make, Dr. Ahir. Previous, that the fifth, I was not there. I'm sorry for that, because suddenly my internet was cut down.
Yeah, it happened technically, technology.
Yeah, technical mistake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Archana, you want to make any comment? You're muted. Please unmute. Please unmute, Archana. Can't hear. Can host can unmute Archana? She is finding
I have
difficulties.
unmuted.
Maybe problem with her mic, I think. Dr. Sali, do you want to make any final comment?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, just to say, yeah, I mean, thank the organizers for the opportunity, and also perhaps maybe suggest that given the discussions around rainwater harvesting and the sessions I had sat in pertaining to Sri Lanka, I think there's a fair amount of material and evidence, perhaps to use that as a basis for lobbying with the authorities to recognize and RW rainwater harvesting as a very viable option to potable drinking water, both in the urban as well as the rural sectors. And then in the previous session, I mean, there was also initiatives to provide, look at different funding instruments, etc. So I think there's a whole package of items that could be perhaps developed into a kind of a policy paper that could be presented as an outcome of this event to GOSL. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sali. Thank you for both presenters for timely presenting and the maintaining your time and presenting all the points very well, very clear presentation. I think we had a very good discussion as well. So we should take forward this discussion to address some of the emerging health problems in this region, especially chronic diseases, communicable and non-communicable diseases related with water. So rainwater can take prominent place, especially in the remote areas, and where development practitioners are reluctant to go for the large-scale projects, and the water sources are very scarce. So the rainwater can take driving seat in these areas, and it could serve the people's right and the their basic right of having access to safe water. With this note, I wish to conclude the session, congratulating the presenters and the acknowledging the interaction of the participants. Thank you. Over to you, Tanuja.
Thank you, Mr. Now the concluding remarks.
It's time for concluding remarks, and I would like to invite two key persons from steering committee. Dr. Sarika Kulkarni is a development practitioner, academic, and author. She has initiated establishing Ra'a Foundation. Ra'a Foundation is an NGO that has directly impacted over 30,000 indigenous people by making their villages water secure, creating agriculture and art-based entrepreneurial opportunities, facilitating health intervention and helping them to adapt and mitigate climate change. Currently, Dr. Kulkarni is the founder and chief executive director of Ra Foundation. Mr. Hanhain is a senior environmental health professional. Since 1982, Hanhain has been working and living in several Asian countries, working with the governments of Nepal and Sri Lanka, with WHO and UNICEF, and with national and international NGOs and knowledge management institutions. Han is currently the Vice President of External Relations of the International Rainwater Catchment Association, and in 2015 he was elected as President of the International Rainwater Harvesting Alliance based in Geneva. Now I would like to invite Dr. Sarika Kulkarni and Mr. Han Hein to give the concluding remarks.
Hi, Tanuja. At the outset, heartiest congratulations for a fabulous convening and conference. I think we had some wonderful papers and great learning and great collection of best practices. It was absolutely wonderful listening. And I think I will leave the basic conclusions to Han because he has really summed up day one very, very well. So Han, do you want to take over? I think heartiest congratulations, and I'll hand it over to Han. Han, you are on mute. You are on mute.
I'm not often on mute, but now I was on mute. I will certainly take over, but I would like you to make a few comments relating to how rainwater harvesting is serving your constituency.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we work in the tribal indigenous areas of Maharashtra, which is part of the Western Ghats. And these are like northernmost part of the Western Ghat. And, I saw this beautiful video from Pakistan where they actually showed how, treacherous the entire area was. Our area is not different. It is kind of similar. And hydrogeology is very, very bad. I mean, it's all hard basaltic rock. And we have no choice but to actually conserve rainwater and use it for multiple purposes. What we have been very successfully able to do is really map out the different rainwater harvesting structures with the water usage, and thereby really optimize the entire demand side and supply side. And of course, involvement of the community, bottom-up approach, etc. So I think that is one of the very successful practice that we have been able to use. Like, for example, open well or dug well is exclusively used for drinking water. It is not used for anything else. And it is deep enough to allow the groundwater streams to flow into it. It is located at a location where there are recharge zones to enable the dug well to be perennial in nature. Similarly, check dams are specifically and particularly used only for hygiene of people, health, and agriculture. We build cattle ponds exclusively for drinking water for cattle because, again, that is very important because otherwise they were drinking water from check dams, and check dams women were washing clothes, and all the soapy water was being consumed by the cattle, etc. So I think this strategy really helped us improve the health of the cattle, as well as keeping cattle away from the check dams, which is then used exclusively by human for other uses. And of course, recharging borewell. I think using rainwater to recharge the borewells is a very, very big initiative, and we are very passionate about it because bore wells are known to actually contribute to India's water crisis. Why India's? I mean, the world's water crisis, and by sucking the aquifers. So I think creating this recharge structure around bore wells and using rainwater to fill up these emptied aquifers is something a very, very large initiative, and So we have been actually using rainwater to create water secure communities. And when I mean water secure communities, I really mean that water is always more than water demand. And water demand means not only the human requirement, but also small time construction, wedding in the village, and so many other water uses. So, and using the local community, empowering their capacity to really monitor the entire thing and make a sustainable exit. So I think that is what we have been doing and focusing on, and very successfully so. We have so far kind of created rainwater harvesting capacity of 910 million liters, over last 7 years. And that has made about 105 villages water secure, directly impacting about 35,000 people. So we are very big on data, and we are big on data and really calculate every single ounce of water that we catch.
Very good. Very good. Thank you very much, Sarika. The enthusiasm, yes, better. Otherwise, the dog keeps barking. Well, the dog keeps barking anyway, but never mind. That is life. No, I was indeed very pleased with today's and yesterday's presentations and the makeup of the whole conference, because we have had so many inspiring presentations from different viewpoints and different situations, covering what one can say normal life unto disaster, and also looking at innovations and all kind of other things we need to consider, how we can somehow act as an octopus in the rainwater harvesting business by linking various other aspects of life as well. Now, I was very pleased with Sunita's initial presentation, where she was giving us a global picture while using examples, direct data from India, which makes it much more, let's say, direct, and that helps a lot. And it shows that, yes, indeed, there are serious concerns at the larger scale with respect to water. How are we going to manage it? Now, this is where, of course, we also come in with the rainwater bit. Sarika, what you are just saying, what many others have been presenting, Mizoram and all that, is not 100,000 households in one go. No. It is like 500, 1,000, etc. So the problem with rainwater is, domestic rainwater, is that scaling up doesn't go so fast. All of us have been saying it will take a long time. It has taken me a long time. Oh, I was busy so long convincing my superiors or whatever, like Mr. Gardesi has been mentioning a number of times. It was really difficult to drag them along. But look at the small video clip that Gardesi was showing, using the opportunity, caused, of course, now by disaster, but using the opportunity that people were having new housing with CGI sheet roofs, which offered a fantastic opportunity to bring in a clean water solution called rainwater harvesting. So it's also a matter of kind of taking the opportunity when it offers itself. And I think that was done very well. Now, the question in a place like Pakistan, of course, the area in which northern areas, Kashmir, where this earthquake took place, usually has more rain. There are other areas which is not so rainfall accredited. So that's a little bit a problem. But that promotion will still work. I mean, the example of even Afghanistan, where 300 millimeter of rain offers life. Yes, you have to store that water and keep it very safe, but it offers life. So it shows that the various presentations that have come in terms of quantity show that, yes, if you do it well, if you store the water well and make sure that people distinguish between different sources of water for different purposes, then you can really manage with rainwater. Because as mentioned several times, you do not need so much water for drinking and cooking, maybe 10, maybe 15 liters a head at the very most. And if it's really difficult, 5 liters will also do. So then, of course, the water that you can gain in a storage tank during the monsoon will last you for quite a while. Not only that, people in the Himalayas, I have noted, are first of all locking the tank after the monsoon, then go down to the nearest source until that one dries up, and then they start using the water in the tank, which will be maybe after, mid-December or January, which means that the dry period that will follow will not be as cumbersome because they still have water near the house. With respect to water quality, a number of concerns were raised, and Professor Feroz explained that, yes, chemically may be okay most of the time, but in the case of bacteriological quality, there will always be some contamination. And the data that Tanuja and Lanka Rainwater have been collecting over the years also show that, yes, she said 35% is more or less, 45% is more or less, 35, I think she said, is more or less zero E. coli, but the rest has 10, maybe 20 E. coli. The issue is not exactly that. It depends where you are. If you live in a very, very clean environment, then of course, maybe that water is going to cause you a problem if it is slightly contaminated. Good enough, and this man is also one who can say so, since we are living, since I've lived in Asia, one encounters situations in which one spoonful of food can cause you more distress than a bottle of water. So it means that, the cleanliness in terms of food, etc., is in that sense much more important than the little bit of contaminants that can come with water supply. Now, of course, that statement I cannot make as an ex-WHO officer, so therefore I'm swallowing it. But the point is that in the real situation in which a lot of people live, the water quality is a lesser concern than the fact that you have reasonably clean water available for your daily chores. The acceptance of rainwater is also quite high. That, of course, was well known, but it was confirmed also by Tanvir Ahmed's initial results of a study he's doing in salinity-affected area in southwestern Bangladesh. These are things that are important to know. Of course, the acceptance is there, and when people really have to, they will drink it. Then the issue of taste will there. Is it flat? Is it not flat? Or do you want to sprinkle of lemon in your water? Well, okay, that's fine. But certainly you can avoid in that way to drink water that contains arsenic or that may lead to CKDU problems, etc., etc. So it means that all over the place, rainwater in quantity and quality has a lot to offer. It is not exclusive. It is not exclusive. It is not the only thing that you have, but it will make your life a lot better. You become much more resilient with respect to the effects of climate change and during the pandemic, the effects of lockdowns, because you do have water near the house. My wife was asking yesterday evening whether we were also considering sufficiently the concerns of people with a disability, or the elderly, like myself, or people with a chronic disease. Obviously, if you have water near the house, it means that your life is becoming a lot better, and you can organize yourself a lot better, being much more independent from others. So in that sense, also, the fact that you have a small storage of rainwater near your house really makes life a lot better. Now, the question is, and that's a question that has been discussed, especially today a bit, how can we encourage the private sector? How can we encourage the politicians to foster the rainwater application? That's a long haul. We haven't achieved that yet, and I suppose that part of the problem is the fact that there is money behind it. Rainwater harvesting projects are usually not financially, at least not for governments and large organizations, financially very attractive. It is a lot of work in many places, which is much more difficult than a little bit of work in a few places. And of course, there are other concerns. But we will have to struggle and somehow find out how we can present the economic advantages for ordinary people to the parliamentarians and other decision makers that represent them. Then maybe gradually we will also get some additional financing for the people that need it in order to improve their water supply situation at home. I think that is nearly all. Of course, what I'm not saying, but I'm now saying it as a last thing, is the fact that we need to continue to promote rainwater harvesting. We need to continue to explain how it works, how people can keep it working. We need to continue to explain to people that there are different sources of water. You can use them all for different purposes, but don't mix them up. Now, the question, of course, then is how much do we trust people to follow that advice? But that is, of course, a matter of public health officials, of all kind of other village and institutional authorities to support. We need to promote rainwater harvesting. Rainwater needs to be harnessed properly for yourself, for your family, for your community, for the area in which you live. If we are just sending the water down to the sea, we will not make it, and life will become really very hot and very dry, and we will all go thirsty. I would like to thank everyone who contributed to this conference so far. I've been thinking, how can we kind of continue this? And the issue is always with a conference that you need a long lead time. We did not have a long lead time this time, simply because of financial constraints of some of the funding ending at a certain stage. But maybe within SARNet, we have to make a commitment and say, okay, next year around this time, or any suitable time, 12 months from now, we should organize a similar conference and already announce it so that people will have more time to think about suitable themes and issues that can be presented at the time. And not only that, we will then also be able to inform our politicians and others that have a bearing on our work that, rainwater is there. Now, if in COP26 in Glasgow, during the climate change discussions next November, a number of things will be raised. We hope also to raise the importance of rainwater harvesting and managing your water, managing your rainwater. I think a lot of households, a lot of families in the South Asia region will be very thankful if we can contribute to that. Thank you all. Thank you, Sarika, for making an argument and explanation for how people in rural areas have to live, how they can really live very nicely if they can manage their own conditions. And I was very, yes, sure.
I think all of us also need to put our minds together to identify practices and technologies which can actually reduce the overall cost of rainwater harvesting. I think then it will become very easy for us to propagate it and also impress upon private sector as well as the government in general to for large-scale adaptation and adoption. So I think that is something that probably we need to focus on in the next 1 year before we meet next September and deliberate more, more details on rainwater harvesting and the looming crisis.
Let us try and do that. I'm going to hand back to Tanuja and maybe Rajendra for the formal closing, I suppose.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Han and Dr. Sarika, for those closing remarks. I'm not going to make it very formal. So just to thank everybody for participating. Of course, without, we have on the second day still about 39 people still connected, so which is very good. All the chairpersons yesterday and today, thank you for all of you and the rapporteurs for your contribution and support. Of course, my duties will be lacking if I don't thank the team behind the screen, led by Ama, our Deputy Director, Udul, Suru, and Rajit, and of course, Danushi, the regional coordinator, doing all the hard work behind the screen so that you have very timely and good presentation throughout the day. So thank you, all of you, also for doing that. Rajendra, you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, you have said much of it. Whatever it is, I don't have to repeat the same thing. But let me thank everybody today and yesterday as well. Yesterday we had quite a big crowd. We started with over 100, and even today, as Tanuja says, and we still have 39 people with us. So thank you very much. I'm sure that it was very useful because I found it very useful. I mean, the papers were excellent. Definitely, papers were excellent, and even the discussions were really good. That's it from my side for now. But Tanuja, I think you probably will have to say what we are going to do tomorrow, right?
Yes.
And whom are
Yes,
we
thank you.
expecting to be with us? Yeah.
Yes. So for the SARNET members, I think you have already got the link for tomorrow and the agenda. So please connect with us tomorrow. We are going to discuss about how far SARNET has come so far, and also what is the future is going to be. So SARNET is your network, so it's very important that you contribute to that for the future of SARNET. So we are only just holding on till you take over from us. So please join us tomorrow at the same time, 2 p.m. For discussion about SARNET. If those of you are not yet members, please join through our website. Yeah, everybody is free to join. Thank you. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, madam. Thank you.
Now he's gone. Okay, good.